I have a few announcements for the meeting. The first one is you received a corrected agenda that just specifies the minutes we're reviewing. They were in your packet, but. It was on the. Yeah, okay. So you have that at your seat. We are going to be having a report, a housing report, but then we're going to have an update from the police department, and we're going to move briefly out into the lobby for a demonstration of what our dog is able to do. So then we will come back here and we will do updates and be here for the rest of the committee of the whole meeting. And then finally, there was a small problem with our Zoom meeting being put out on the internet somehow. And so tonight, anybody on Zoom, and we'll announce this at the next meeting as well, won't have camera or the ability to speak unless they raise their hand and they're going to appear, and then we will enable them to unmute and show their camera. So I think that is my three things. Is questions on any of that? All right, we'll keep moving then. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes from February 4th, 2025.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Jan and a second by Colleen. Are there any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to move to item 5 then, items for discussion. We're going to have a presentation regarding housing reports by Brandy.
All right, I will try to make this as brief and quick as possible because I know that we have some larger presentations coming up. Every year for the past 3 years, you guys have seen these reports come across. So I will just highlight some of the items within the report and then answer any questions if anything happens. As you're aware, these reports are required by our municipality because we have exceeded the 10,000 population. And so we're required to do both the housing report and then a fee report that are posted on our website for the year. And part of that statutory requirement is also that it's presented and given to the village board members as well. Throughout the fee report, it's basically the current fees that have been charged for the applications that were submitted in 2024. As you remember, that building report that I had presented to you guys last month, we had that 244 million estimated additional value to the village. These are the applications that come through to add into that particular value for that. So throughout the report, it does show the fee schedule of what the village board has approved can be charged for fees. And then it also has a breakdown of the 2024 building permit fees that we went through. So in 2024, we collected $1.1 million worth of permit fees through permitting. Now, this does include all of the new construction, residential construction fees, and then also the commercial fees. So that's why that amount is so high, because there are larger impact fees that are included there. And then these are the development fees that are required per development applications, mostly associated with application fees for different types of zoning related items. And so that is the fee schedule in a quick glance. You guys were provided the report in your packet. It is also located on the community development page on our website. if you had any reviews. So I'd be happy to answer any questions here at the meeting, or if you want to reach out afterwards on those, that would be fine. The housing report.
Just a very quick question.
Yeah.
On here, it talks about the duplex improvement fee and average fee per project, $896.50. Is that per half?
That's
or-
per unit, yes.
Okay, so
a
one half
duplex,
and then-
that is
okay.
correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was my,
Yep, that is correct. So real quick on the housing affordability report, again, just what's statutorily required. A couple of things I just want to highlight on this is by 2024, the DeForest Windsor median home sales price increased by 121% since 2014. And now it's slightly greater than the median home price in Dane County, which is different from last year. Last year, we were just below that median. This year, we're slightly above the median pricing, which, you know, it just shows people want to move to our community. They're willing to build, you know, homes that satisfy their needs and willing to spend that amount to be able to live in a community like ours. And then just going through, it has a breakdown of the comprehensive plan, goals, objectives, and then also benchmarks that have been reached through 2024 from the approved plan, from comprehensive plan from 2023. There is a significant uptick in multifamily permit housing, as you guys are aware. But the multifamily uptick that we did have was not directed at any affordable housing for 2024. Another notable benchmark is the shrinking supply of single-family lots that are currently for sale. Right now, as of the end of January, we only have approximately 27 lots that are available for sale for single-family homes, which reflects that we don't have enough single-family lots to meet the demands that are out there in Dane County. Now, this in 2025, we do have a couple of developments that are coming online that will bring some residential housing, but it's something that we definitely want to make sure that we keep in the forefront of our mind while we're looking at growth throughout the community. Last thing is the future land use map does earmark that there's about 1,600 acres of land that are designated for future residential development that are not zoned, they're not platted, there's nothing there to build on, but we do have about 1,600 acres to do that with. So that's it, real quick.
The Erickson plat, is there any indication that they're gonna be moving forward anytime soon, or it's just getting banked?
Yeah, I have no indication that there's going to be any movement on that as of right now. I know Elaine has everything available. She wants to sell it off in chunks and do it that way, but I'm not aware of.
Just offhand, do you know
activity.
the amount of single family lots? Is it like 50 or something like that?
That are remaining in Heritage Gardens?
Yeah,
I think
that
it's-
could be platted and built. Is it
For
about
single
50?
family, I think it's in the mid-50s. Yeah, they do have some duplex options in the southern portion of that as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Well, I thank you for that, Brandy, and it was a good report to read, so thanks for doing it. With that, we're going to move to item 5.2, discussion regarding the Police Department Professional Standards Report. Oh, he's out there.
Oh, sure. Be under pressure to find a little spot there. All right. Well, good evening. It's that time of year again where we kind of appear before you and give you some of the numbers that we have from the department in the last year in 2024. This year, because it is kind of high risk, I did add the component of some canine information. I think it's an important thing. It's an important part for our community. We're seeing great success with him and the handler both. And I just want to be able to do that. And as President Cahill Wolfgram mentioned, we're just going to go out in the hallway and kind of give you a little demo. We never got to do that yet. You got to meet Cairo. He walked around, but we want to be able to show you a little bit of what he can do with some sniffs and stuff like that. So it'll be relatively quick. We just have to be kind of efficient because we have a lot of data to give you here tonight. I asked the captain to appear with me kind of at the last minute. So it's kind of the joy of, hey, come on. And by the way, here's what you're talking about. So it's, I apologize to him in advance for that. So 2024 was actually a very good year for the department. We did see some turnover, one unexpected. The other one as a result of just going to a different department, which is very, very typical right now in policing. But this report that we do for you kind of is reflective of our ongoing transparency efforts. In the last 6 years, I've been here since 2019, we have tried to constantly increase our transparency with our community, talk about the things that happen in the department so that we can be open and honest and hit them head on. That's kind of the stance that we've taken, and it's something that we continue to do. So this is just the report from 2024. And we'll start with the K-9 if I can ever get myself out of here. There we go. All right, so Cairo obviously has been adapting pretty well. Just some photos that we had from about the year. The thing I find kind of comical is this photo here in the very top of the screen was the first day he came back to our department. Officer Deppy brought him back from Pennsylvania and said, hey, I'm gonna bring him in just to kind of acclimate him. I thought the dog might stroke out. He panted for the 2 hours he was there. I mean, it was new people, new surroundings, new faces, new location. He was in a car for 7 hours coming back from Pennsylvania the day before. And just to see where he is now is just absolutely amazing. And it's a lot of attributed to Adam and the work that he does with Cairo daily. You can see like, here was his Christmas photo. He kind of has a tendency to like a couple of toys, but they got to be pretty tough because he will destroy them. I can't get this to minimize for this one. Oh, thank
Do
you.
this for a second, though.
I'll let. My technical assistance. This is why Judd's the IT person. Thanks, Judd. You know, he's been out in the community. Adam gets him out. He had him out at the athletic complex over the summer. We had some events for our foundation donors because it was important that they had a chance after they donated for us to be able to start the program to get to meet Cairo and meet Adam. And then we'll talk about it at the very end of this. This is Elizabeth Wada. She's a reporter from NBC 15. We did a really good story about some members out of our department. And right after that, as Officer Deppy was one of them that she interviewed. Of course, everybody wants to see the dog. They don't care about anybody else when Cairo's around. So we're well used to that. But like I said, he's been with us since April 26th of last year. Adam didn't know he'd be a dog dad, but he is. And he lives with Adam and his wife well enough in the village as well. So that's kind of a really good thing. And they're still evolving as a team. They do a bunch of training on shift, specialized training days, and they're still progressing as they develop as a team. One of the programs we use is something called Pack Track. What it does is Adam has to input data for either deployments or for training so that we can track how much he does every month. I apologize, it's a little small. It just kicks out a PDF whenever I ask it for what the numbers are. But we talk about the 12 deployments he's had since he's been back. You may say, oh, just 12. That's actually quite a bit. He does really, really well, but you'll see in a second where he's getting used. He's in different environments, whether it's out in a building, whether it's in a field, that kind of thing. I think I mentioned to you previously, he did a great job tracking somebody who dumped a stolen car. He tracked him through a soybean field all the way till he hit a hard surface. And then where the person got picked up by somebody else, he just lost the scent. But the important thing is he was on it. I mean, he's got a very good tracking ability. He's helped other jurisdictions, at least one I can think of, affect a high risk arrest by just barking. So he gets used quite a bit. More times than not, he's used in the village. And we'll talk about what that looks like here. So you can see these are the departments that have either requested through mutual aid. One thing with canines that we kind of learned as we go is there's a time limit. Basically, he would never get to like McFarland on a traffic stop because it would time out before he could be there and be effective. So it really keeps him tied to our community, which is important. The one deployment to Mount Horeb was the school shooter. It was his first day on the street and he responded to that. because they were looking for canines. And we said, well, we got you here. You might as well go. So Sergeant Hughes, Officer Deppy, and Cairo responded to that. It's just kind of where things fall, but you can see the greatest usage is in the village of DeForest. Officers are getting to learn them. We just had in-service today, and the captain wisely took him along for our in-service trainings and just had staff kind of see how he works inside of a building. So it's always a new adventure for him. So with that, before I get too long-winded, what we're going to ask is if you can just come out the hallway, we'll kind of show you where to stand, and we'll kind of explain out there what he's looking for and just watch some of his behavior and that kind of stuff. I think he's out there kind of hanging out as it is. So I think Callie's just going to pause it for a couple minutes. And then we'll kind of go out.
All right, we'll continue with our agenda. Thank you for the demonstration.
Yep. We got some more now, the real data, the other stuff. Callie, you restarted it, right? Okay, I just want to make sure that I didn't forget to remind you. So obviously the other things that we talk about annually are the use of force numbers. Our use of force numbers this year were significantly lower. We had 9 incidents of use of force as compared to 31 in the previous year. 29 in 2022, 39 uses in 2021, and 33 uses in 2020. It might be just an anomaly year, to be honest with you. That's definitely an outlier. A little bit lower. Our numbers were a little bit lower across the board, which good. I think it's also, we were shorthanded for a good majority of the year. One unexpected, one, like I said, just a resignation for another department, which obviously drives it down when you then have people on field training and you're shorthanded and things like that. But overall, staff is adapting. We have a very robust training program for people, really focused around how to talk people into voluntary compliance, as compared to, some places you might see that you get more resistance unless you learn to talk to people and explain to them what's happening. So I think that's a very positive thing for us. The force justification numbers that you see, about 10% of the time, force was used defending themselves or other. 30% of the time, it was preventing somebody from escaping. 20% of the time, making arrest. 20% maintaining or achieving control. And then about 20% of the time, it was to detain people. Again, you're talking extremely low sample size, so those numbers are very dynamic if one little thing changes. The demographics against where force was used, you can see would be the light blue ones here on the outside. This is all generated out of our IAPRO program that we implemented, our tracking program that we implemented in 2019. So 2019, you won't see great numbers because we got it late in the year. And then since then, you'll be able to see kind of the progression as things happen. But, all right, we had 2 uses of forces involving a black male. We had 4 uses of force involving a white male. And then a white female, we had 2 uses of force. And there was an unknown one in there. We did a data conversion recently, a server upgrade, and some of the numbers got inverted. So we kind of go back and kind of cleaning that things up. We've had to go back through every report. But that's just transparency. That's what the numbers are. And you'll see a video here at the end of the presentation that depicts one of the use of force. We also track show of force. So show of force to me is important too, because it's a citizen driving by and you see an officer with a patrol rifle in their hand, or you see an officer with a handgun out, or you see an officer with a taser out. That's what the stuff. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? It's important to demonstrate why we're doing it. In this case, we used ECD or electronic control device, a taser as you know it. We had 1 show of force with that. And then we had 8 show of force with deadly force, would be a handgun or a rifle. We don't qualify which in the last year. And then there would have been 1 use of force with an intermediate weapon. Actually, no, that was last year. Sorry, the colors are killing me here. So that would have been 2020. So it's just these 2. It's just a deadly force or an ECD. When we look at use of force, every use of force is reviewed. In other words, it's reviewed by a supervisor. Obviously with body worn cameras, we're able to see quite a bit and see what's happening, hear what's happening. So that's an important thing. Every one of our use of forces fell within our use of force policy, which is always important when we look at it and we try to learn from it. So if there's a technique an officer can do better, all the reviews that the sergeants do, we really try to learn from that as a learning organization so that they can be safer, they can be better and better serve the community. So here's just some numbers. And these are they don't really, the numbers don't change per se. It's just the way that I've got them displayed here later on. They might look a little different to you. So last year we took 10,195 total assignments. That's still, believe it or not, we're still going through finalizing last year. This should be less than, it's 1,100 calls down from the year before. Again, you're missing people throughout the course of the year. There's sometimes less self-generated activity. Traffic contacts go down because you don't have the people or you're on field training. So the multiplier factor is down. We had 9, this is actually should be 9 uses of force in the last year. So that equals to about 0.00098% of the time an officer is at an assignment, force is used. Our force is nothing that is alarming. In other words, it's like non-compliant handcuffing. Somebody's resisting, you're trying to handcuff them. You're escorting. That's considered a use of force by what we track. We track low levels of force to hopefully avoid high levels of force. So there's nothing that we had in use of force that's even reportable to the state. It's all something we track to try to make our people better. We had our use of force policy updated a few years ago. It's been accredited a couple of years ago by the state's accrediting agency. And right now I know the captain's in the process of reviewing it so that we can update a couple of verbiage things that changed in there. And then it's already posted on our website because the statute requires it to be. So it'll be there. It's always going to be there. When it's updated, we'll just replace it. It'll be on our website for people in the community to see. We always get asked about this. We did have one use of force in the school. It was a non-compliant handcuffing. It was a student that was acting out a little bit and they were non-compliant handcuffed by the officer. And that's what the use of force was. We didn't even have a decentralization or a direction to the ground last year. So with that, I'll give it to Chris for the next couple of words.
Okay, another component of data we track is citizen complaint data. So you can see in 2024, we had 3 citizen complaints, which is down significantly from 2023, more in line with 2022, but that's kind of the be 5 or 6 year display of citizen complaints. So in 2024, we had 2 demographics of complaints. So 2 of the citizen complaints were from a white female, and then 1 of the citizen complaints was from an unknown male. This shows the disposition of citizen complaints. So 66% of them were, or 2 of the 3 were labeled as exonerated, meaning the complaint allegation that was made, the investigation showed that the allegation did not happen. 33% or 1 of the 3 was a finding of not sustained. So not sustained, basically when we investigate it, we can't determine whether it happened or didn't happen. It's more of a he said, she said. So those are the 3 outcomes of the 3 citizen complaints. We transitioned to internal investigations. So in 2024, we had 4 internal investigations. Kind of just shows the months that they happened. We had 2 internal investigations in January, then we had 1 in August and 1 in May. This shows the dispositions on the far right. 2 of the complaints were sustained as having happened. 2 of them were withdrawn. Withdrawn basically is during the course of an investigation, the person resigned employment or left the agency. We'll transition to vehicle pursuits. So in 2024, we had 11 vehicle pursuits, which is actually, again, as in line with other things, down from 2023. We had 2 of the pursuits out of the 11 that were out of policy, and then 9 were within policy. When we look at a vehicle pursuit, if a portion of the pursuit is out of policy, then the whole pursuit is out of policy is how we look at it. So we look and say, well, it's out of policy. That may be a small component of the pursuit that was determined to be out of policy. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was a bad pursuit or anything like that. Does you want me to?
So we put in place some accountability measures, just how to keep the sergeants, particularly as the first line supervisors, involved with managing the risk that comes with police work. So they have risk intervention meetings, then we have risk intervention meetings as a command staff. So the captain, myself, the lieutenant, and then we'll bring the sergeants in and we will look at use of force from the previous month, or sometimes it's 6 weeks. But we'll look at pursuits, especially if somebody says they're out of policy. You're going to see an example of one of the out of policy ones. They weren't huge, like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. They weren't excessively dangerous, but they were outside of our policy. And then we look at the body worn camera program to see how it integrates and what we can learn from it. It's the accountability meeting that I hold with staff is really focused on agency improvement. If there's something that's an internal investigation or an administrative investigation, again, to be disciplinary in nature, I have to be able to meet Chapter 62 of the Wisconsin statutes and make sure that we don't violate the officer's Bill of Rights. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But we are very, very careful when we have to do those types of investigations that we do them properly so that the community is protected, that our officers are protected, and that we overall see improvement. We do video reviews monthly. So the sergeants, every month, they will do a number of reviews of videos from every one of their personnel, and the captain sets that with them. It's either 3 or 4 or whatever they turn out doing. It all just depends. So the sergeants reviewed about 330 videos, I believe, last year, and they'll watch it from start to finish. So it could be them, if they happen to get it's every 3rd video or every 4th video, and it happens to be an impaired driver, they might get to sit and listen to the entire conversation in the car from the scene back to the building, including the alcohol, the administration of the breath test, and then it depends when they shut the camera off. We try to get them to be efficient. There's a lot of different reasons. Once the incident's over, they should be turning off their body worn camera. And you'll see some of the numbers and some of the things that came up during it. We review pursuits. So if there's 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars involved in a pursuit, we review every one of those squad cameras because they all show a different part of the picture, especially when things come to an end. If it's a use of force, we'll review not just the officer's body worn camera, but we'll review their squad camera because sometimes you get that wider picture on a squad camera. The ones that we have, I selected that it would not be zoomed in at all. Some agencies will do like a 60% zoom. So it kind of focuses a little tighter. We wanted the wider angle and we just have the one camera facing forward. So all of that is reviewed every month. And it turns out we had like 376 videos that we reviewed throughout the course of the year. In all of those, there was about 29 issues detected, or 7.7% of the time there was an issue detected. But the issues that we are detecting are some of them are administrative, and we fight this constantly because you're out in the field, you're busy, you stop your body worn camera, it only gives you a couple options on the camera. They can turn a dial and they can get one of 4 options. If that's not the one you want, you just let it go and it just goes unclassified. The reason we got to get after and to classify the videos is because it goes into the records retention policy. So instead of 121 days, it might be a 12-month or a 3-year, or if our legal wizard's office needs it for prosecution, we got to make sure that we have that available to them. So sometimes we're seeing incorrect classification. They don't put the case number on it. All it means is when we do open record requests, it takes a couple extra clicks to find the video. Just makes it a little bit more challenging for administrative staff on the back end. They didn't classify things. What they have to do at the beginning of the shift, they dock the body worn camera in the car. That's what causes it to sync to the car, because the system we purchased is a very good system, very robust, but everybody doesn't have to have it. So like Axon, everyone has to have their own camera, and then it syncs to the car. These you sync and you sign out the camera. Sometimes they delayed activating the body worn camera. That's generally they're out of the car and they just don't press the button quick enough. So we talk to them, make sure you get that. We want you to document, protect yourself, protect the community. Sometimes we see positioning during vehicle contacts, like officers shouldn't stand between the car they have stopped or dealing with and the patrol car. It's really bad if somebody decides to back up quickly. So we talk to them about positioning for their own safety, or they're standing in the roadway or things like that. We talked about the pursuit non-compliance, and then sometimes they just don't stop it after the incident. Couple of reasons we want them to stop it after the incident's over. Mostly it's data. We get so much data to upload for a fee. We don't want to exceed that because then it starts costing more. We have never exceeded that. We haven't even gotten close, so we're good there. But it's also for records when we have to burn records for a citizen request or a DA request or a village attorney request. They're now getting the entire video, which I don't think Al wants a 3-hour video for a speeding ticket. I mean, maybe he does. We can help him with that. But if they do, it's just extra that we have to do or somebody else has, and then somebody's going to watch the whole thing, and it's generally nothing. So we just try to make sure that we're succinct with what we're recording. A couple of the things that we are doing this year, we're launching our EIP program, our employee or early intervention program, to really kind of head off issues that might happen. You know, everybody has that quote unquote day in their life where they act out of character. We look a lot at patterns, as you can see here, when things happen, why things happen, who they happen with. So we're trying to launch an EIP program. I'm set on launching that this year, that we will work with staff, work with their representatives in their union to really make sure that if we detect a pattern with somebody, that we can address it early on and cut off things from happening. We do a lot of training identification, not just for general policing tactics, but also for like anti-bias training. We put a lot into our fair and impartial policing training. That's an important part of what we do, and we can use these things as reinforcement. Again, we still use this as an oversight, supervisory tool, a management review team, and then discipline. If, you know, some of the citizen complaints, it's interesting if somebody comes in and says, oh, this happened, and we say, you want to see the body camera, you want to see the squad camera, you know, sometimes it goes, and sometimes people say, yeah, I don't think that was right. We're still going to investigate it. If it rises to the level of discipline, we have that there then to use in a hearing if we would ever need it. We have never needed it to this date. So EIP, I already talked about this a little bit, but that'll be fully implemented this year. So a couple things, just last minute kudos to a job well done. In 2024, the Gabriel Savage case settled before it actually went to trial. NBC did a really nice story. On the left, that's Officer Deppie and Officer Zeidler. Both of them were the ones who stopped the individual that night on the street. They kind of came in and didn't make it look like they were inside of our Sallyport garage. So they kind of cool what they do with lighting and that kind of stuff. And then Detective Larson on the right, I don't know why he didn't want to be in his own office, so he commandeered Sergeant Hughes' office for a little bit just to do that interview. But that's just one example of the tremendous work that the officers and the detectives next door do every single day for the community. That one obviously drew a lot of attention because of the overall case, but it drew a lot of attention because the reporter that I showed you earlier with the picture with the dog was in court when he was sentenced, and the judge and the district attorney talked about what a great job the officers and detectives in the department did and really praised them publicly in court. And they kind of did a little digging and found out really how much work went into it. So the officers next door, they worked very, very hard for the community. They do it every day, thanklessly, 24 hours a day, 365. So just a little shout out to them. And then the last thing we have for you, just a little video from last year. See the bulge in the front of his hoodie, which was the concern. He wouldn't let the officer pat him down.
Where is that?
No, that's not one of our pursuits, just in case you're wondering. This is the out of policy pursuit right here. They enter the wrong roundabout the wrong way. You can see there's no other cars around. But it technically violates our pursuit policy. So that's just a couple of little examples from our system of what happened last year. You see, like I said, I try to talk through it a little bit, but the taser video, obviously there's a large bulge in the person's waistband or in their hoodie, which the officer wanted to check. And then we got into the little disagreement. And when he tried to use his constitutional right to frisk the person, he took off running. You had that example, the pursuit policy, like I say, going the wrong way into route violates our pursuit policy. So that pursuit, while is good, and I believe we apprehended somebody at the end of that one. That person, that, you know, we just did a counseling with the individual just to say, hey, you know, this is what you got to think of, this tactic, this strategy. You had another officer here, you know, there's a lot going into pursuits when they happen. The amount of tunnel vision you get in a pursuit. And it's just one of those things we kind of keep reinforcing with staff. So we wanted to provide you with just a couple little video examples because, you know, this is why Brandy said she wanted to go first. She didn't want to follow the dog or the video at the end. So she said she'd gladly go first. But
See,
if there's questions, I think I asked Adam to stick around too, in case you had questions we can answer.
A couple of questions. As an advocate for the Gentrack and body cams, do you still find them useful?
Absolutely. I think in today's world, law enforcement agencies not having body cameras or squad cameras, I think you're doing a disservice to your community.
And then the requests for the body cams. Do you have an idea how many? Have they increased over the past, say, 3 years?
The open records requests?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely up. They keep going up. There's a state law that came out last year that really we can start to charge a fee after X amount of requests from users to try to preempt some of the YouTubers who will take body cameras and cameras from law enforcement around the state. And then they make money off them, basically put them on YouTube channels. So that law was enacted last year and that has helped a little bit, but we, you know, every time there's a prosecution, it's not redacted, it's turned over to both the defense and the prosecution. Again, it just really helps protect our staff.
And this rolls in the next question. What's the average cost of, say, me coming in wanting a video? Is it $10, $20? Does it vary, or because you don't want to make it so high that it's cost prohibitive to people of lesser means?
Yeah, no, I don't know exactly. I'm just gonna, this is just a
It's
speculation.
an idea, yeah.
There's really very minimal location fee unless somebody was to request, you know, something absolutely out of line, like the last year's worth of videos or something. But it's all about the device. So at times we can email them. That's the nice thing about the system we chose is we can email our prosecutors links. We can also do that with the public. If there's a redaction, that's where it takes staff time. So that's why it's a little bit of a hard question to answer. But it could be anywhere from $1 to $5 roughly if we got to give a thumb drive or something like that.
Oh, thank you. That's very reasonable.
all right. Any other questions? Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you, all three of you. It was very informative and it was great to see the dog coming along. This was all good.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, we're gonna continue with our agenda. Yeah, Bill Chang for administrative update.
I do not have any updates this evening. Thank you.
Wow. Finance update, Carol, surprise us, no. Police department, no. Public services,
Yep,
okay.
I'll go in. Just a number of things. First, community open house is happening on March 6th from 5:30 to 6:30. Of course, you all are invited. We'll post the notice of a potential quorum for that night. It's always a great event. Featuring our public services projects that we're doing, parks projects. We've got planning and zoning, economic development, finance, the whole team. Everybody can share what they might want to share for that night. I did ask for snow, and my crews have done a great job, I think, handling the snow and put in a lot of long hours last week or so, taking care of that. We continue to have bids for projects going out. We got one bid back that'll be on the next board meeting, and we've got some more bid openings next week. So tonight is our last night for deer call for the season, so I won't be here for the later part of the meeting. Hopefully we're going to be successful. I got to go do that. I sent out an email. You should get it. We're moving to our new IT department, new IT firm next week. Tuesday, we'll begin that process. And so there's information I mailed to you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out and ask. But we'll make that as smooth as we can transition for everybody. Finally, at your desk, your seat, there's a back-to-back sheet about our EPA violations. So we were notified by the EPA and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources that we failed to comply with a complete audit of our water system that in regards to lead and copper rule that went into place. So we've created an Engage to Forest page that outlines all the information there. Basically what happened is we missed about 400 to 500 basis for reactions to the number, how we came up with what is in the ground at a location, right? So it's either on the service side or the customer side. So of the 800 water users we have in the community, 3,400, 3,300, we successfully completed it all correctly. These we missed one little thing, but it now generates us to have to send this out to every resident in the village. There are still a number of residents, 800, 900, that we'd like to be able to get to their house inside to see what they have to comply with the lead and copper rule. There's mandates coming down in 27 for replacement and all those other things, but this is a first step and it's an important step to make sure we're in compliance. So we have an issue, we have a remedy for it. We're actually already working through it and should be back in compliance very soon.
And once told me a year, houses before or after a certain date are less likely. Do you know what that date is?
Well, I think it was somewhere typically in the 70s, but I think Wisconsin enacted the lead ban in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So it's usually after that point that's not going to be an issue.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, Rebecca, and then Jan.
Just a real quick question back to the deer call. I've had a few people who've asked me about that. I thank you for letting us know when it's ending. I'd forgotten the date. Are you going to be giving us a report, a summary report once everything is done?
Sure, I can
Okay.
bring one back. Yep.
Yeah, I think people would appreciate that. So thanks.
You're good. Okay. All right, well then we'll keep moving through our agenda here. Community Development, Alex. Oh, good man. Callie. Okay. And Reese, Recreation.
I've got a few as well. So earlier today, we released our spring summer guide. It was 47 pages. We had over 173 new programs. So some of our programs like soccer, we had already released with our fall winter guide, but it is again on this guide, so that's not included in those numbers. Registration will open on Monday at 11 a.m. And I just want to give, I'm thankful that Stacy, well, she is here. She puts a lot of work into that and it takes a lot of time. We started this process in January and it's a lot of work with things changing. As much as today, again, I had an instructor who was like, oh, I had something come up and we had to make some changes during the final edits. So Dragon Arts, Trisha let me know that we have 111 applications so far. She believes last year that the Dragon Arts group had 125. So we're feeling really good about where we're at with those applications right now. We are starting to have sponsorship coming in and she's starting to make a lot of really great connections there. She's also applied for a GEM grant for 4th of July, which would help us with funding for additional marketing. So we should hear about that in April. A couple weeks ago, we were at conference, and while we were at conference, Sam was appointed to be our Region 3 rep for the association. So he manages kind of all the communication for our region, and we're really proud of what he's doing there and his recognition. And then you guys all received an email from a sanctioned organization or a group in the community, and we'll be talking more about that at our next meeting. So just wanted to let you know that there are plans for communication on that.
Thank you. Thank you. There is no closed session tonight, but I did want to make an announcement before we adjourn our committee of the whole meeting. We've been asked not to congregate around the sign-in table. The last couple of meetings, it's been hard for people to get to the table and sign in. So if you have a conversation, we ask you take it someplace else in the lobby, and we appreciate your cooperation. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 5:56 PM. We'll take a 5-minute break and then start our regular village board meeting. (6:02 PM) on February 20th, 2025. I am hoping that Kelly will note roll call. And I would ask Colleen to lead us in the recitation of the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 4, announcements. The village board will convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851E of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight, negotiating a development agreement with JES DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, 3D DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, and DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC. Negotiating a municipal boundary agreement with the town of Westport and certain consideration of a tax incremental financing request from Cascade Development LLC. Item 5, our consent agenda. I would first ask if there's anything anyone wants separated out. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I hear Jim.
Yep, I
Jim
can't
is on
get my
Zoom.
video working yet, but
All
I'll be on
right.
shortly.
Good to see or hear from you. Did I ask for opposed? I don't think I asked for opposed. Opposed? No one's opposed. So the motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Okay, with that, we will move to public appearances, item 6, and we have some. And I wanted to announce that if you're online and you wish to appear, because we've had to be a little careful with what's going on with our Zoom tonight, if you want to appear and you haven't filled out a form online, please raise your hand at some point, and we will work with you to get you on video and on audio. Okay, we'll begin with I've got them all separated here. Jane Smith with the Village of DeForest, who has designated Jan Cargill to read for her. Is Jan here or online? I haven't seen anything. Kelly, do you want to read this statement? When someone submits a statement to be read, if you have someone to read, you can have the full 3 minutes. If you don't, then Callie will read 30 seconds of it and it will go into the record.
I am appalled but not surprised certain members of this board would call engaged DeForest bullying. There was zero concern for bullying when Rebecca encouraged non-residents to comment and laughed about people who lived here. I've read comments from Bill where he is telling people the village is opening a criminal case. They both gladly received emails from a prominent voice pushing to remove fluoride, where she called healthcare professionals names, shared their private information, made fun of residents.
Okay, we will enter that into the record. All right, the next person is Nina Harms. Yeah, come on up to the table. And you have to kind of get close to that microphone in order to be heard and get it. And if you press the button, and then just share with us your name and address.
My name's Nina Harms. I live at 625 DeForest Street, just down the street there.
Okay,
Now I can begin.
you can begin.
All right, so this is about fluoride. The proper amount of fluoride in our water, which is 0.7 milligrams per liter, is safe and effective in preventing cavities and helps with the overall oral health. Problems only arise when the amount of fluoride in a person's body is above 4 milligrams per liter. For 75 years, the U.S. has, in the majority of water systems, added fluoride, adjusting to account for additional naturally occurring fluoride in the water. There is no study that has found a correlation between a safe amount of fluoride added to a system and a detriment to a child's IQ. Instead, they found that a child exposed to amounts below 4 milligrams per liter were safe. The real reason America adds fluoride to our systems is to mediate and medicate through water to make up for a lack of care for those living at or below the poverty line or those that do not have dental insurance. While it may not be the most graceful or even efficient method of getting fluoride into a person's system, it is the only one we have until we have affordable or free dental care for those without health care and who live in poverty. In the end, the correct and safe amount of fluoride for a water system is a safe way of reducing gum disease and cavities in children per the CDC and the American Dental Association. A decision of this magnitude should not be made by just a 7-person board. Instead, the people who are potentially affected should get a vote. And I believe that the decision that was made leaves the most vulnerable people in the bad place. That's it.
Thank you. Dan Zell. Yeah, it to turn green and then you know it's on. There you go.
Okay, I guess I have to agree with the previous person's statements.
I'm sorry, Dan, could you please state your name and address
I'm
for the
sorry.
record?
Dan Zell, 325 Woodvale Drive, DeForest. I have to agree with the person before me, as well as I believe that it should have been offered the option for every village voter as well as student or person affected by this to have the right to vote as to whether this fluoride is removed from the water or not. That's the part I really think is wrong. I don't think that's a decision that a board should have done in the first place. I guess that's all I have to add.
Well, we appreciate your coming forward. Thank you. Jennifer McFarland. Did I say that right? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You'll have to forgive me, I've been sick. So my name is Jennifer McFarlane. I'm gonna give my business address of 210 North Main Street, Suite 202 in DeForest here. I come before you tonight to discuss a large issue attacking this board and infecting our community. There is a group of people that are allowed to organize in what best can be described as a mob. The mob defined is a large group of people, especially one that is disorderly and intent on causing trouble or violence. These people organize weekly to plan their moves. They have fake accounts online that they use to stalk and harass people from the community with opposing viewpoints. They've gone as far as to dox people. For those of you that do not understand what doxing is, it's giving out of personal information in order to create threat. They do this for people's home addresses as well as their workplaces. I began noticing that the members of the boards, there's friends condoning this behavior on this board. At times, I believe enticing their behavior for their own benefit from the outcomes. When the Engage DeForest was put up, it was asked that the members of our community come to you and share our opinions. Yet anyone that shared respectfully their perspective that opposed this group's viewpoints, they were directly attacked. Very petty name calling and bullying. Myself, my comment is still up there. There was nothing wrong with my comment, but I was told that the fluoride had clearly lowered my IQ over the last 5 generations. I'm concerned. I'm a concerned citizen, not a lawyer. I do not know the answer to this problem, only that there is a problem. I spoke to it online, stating there needs to be a way to filter this, and was accused of desiring to censor people. As an adult, I was under the impression that we were censoring ourselves. But that not being the case, what is the solution? How can innocent people share their opinion without fearing attack, without making themselves a target for this angry mob? How is it that our elected officials are condoning this behavior? If no one leads us in the right direction, how will this change? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person is Sheila Howe.
Sheila Howe, 324 Market Street. First, I want to thank you to the board members who voted to remove the toxic waste byproduct of the fertilizer industry, hydrofluorosilicic acid, otherwise known as fluoride, from our water system. You had several listening sessions, meetings, several months of information to go through, which included experts on both sides of the issue. Despite the negative attacks, bad press, FOIA requests, and harassment for speaking to experts on both sides, you voted your conscience, and that is commendable. Thank you. If you want everyone to vote on this issue, then everyone should be as educated as you were on the issue. You spent a lot of time on this. And not everybody in the community is able to spend that time that you did. Regarding the Engage DeForest site, I think it should be removed completely. People can give opinions by emailing or calling you representatives. You don't need a forum online. This keeps it on topic, one-on-one. Being able to give an opinion without any repercussions is golden. I have suffered a severe attack on the site. It was posted on January 24th and is still on the site to this day. I'm requesting it be removed. Interesting that commenting on the page ended on January 31st and the vote was February 4th. Why would you shut down the commenting so early? Problems with the site include, number one, there's no way to verify if anyone is from the village when allowed to anonymously sign in to comment. Number two, they're able to sign up as several different people then giving the same opinions. Thus, you don't have an accurate account of true opinions. Number 3, there are enough platforms where bullying is already happening, and by allowing it on the DeForest site makes the village look horrible. This is the government website, and you're allowing anonymous people to attack other people just for having an opinion or stating facts. That totally discourages and detracts others from speaking up. It's very unprofessional for a community website. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Was there anyone who was either online or in the audience that wanted to speak? Yeah. All right. Thank you. We will continue with our agenda then. And we're going to move to a concept presentation from JES DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC. I didn't hear you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so what I'll do here is introduce the presenter. We have Ken Osborne from HSA Commercial Real Estate. And they are doing business as JES DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, 3D DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, and DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC. They will be presenting a concept of their proposed development along Hickory Lane on approximately 48 acres. Ken, go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. Again, my name is Ken Osborne. I'm Vice President of Development with HSA. Little background on the company. We've been in real estate development for about 30 years. We develop projects nationally, but over the last 20 years, the bulk of our work has been in Wisconsin, so we're very familiar with the state. We are a long-term owner of our buildings. We are not a merchant builder. And with that in mind, we build real Class A facilities, quality buildings that last a long time. And we try to be good neighbors in all of the communities that we develop our facilities in. Just some quick stats here. As I stated, the bulk of our development has been in Wisconsin. I don't need to read all these stats, but as you can tell, a lot of our holdings are in the state. If you'd like to take a look at some of our product in person, we recently completed these 2 buildings in Madison at 3204 Omeda and 6002 Femright Drive. We've had some really good luck with leasing in these buildings, and it gives you a good idea of the kind of facility you can expect. So the site is highlighted here. You can kind of see its proximity to 90, very good access. One of the attractive things about this site. Here is our draft CSM that we'll be presenting to try to get recorded. We'll break this up into 4 lots and an outlot. Outlot 1 will be a detention area. There's an existing wetland there. So that will be rezoned to C1 Conservancy District. Lot 1 will be rezoned to B3 Highway Business District. Andy Kucinich with Research Products, they'll be the owners of that site there. And then the remaining lots 2, 3, and 4, we would like to rezone to M2 General Industrial District, and that's what we as HSA will be developing. Here's our concept site plan. These are 3 buildings. The northern 2 are just under 300,000 square feet, and the southern one is about 275,000 square feet. So around 800,000 square feet total of development here. We set these up to be demised 4 times. Each tenant would have an office entrance and a drive-in door, and that's generally how we try to set it up. Here's an aerial perspective with what's existing out there right now. Just give you an idea of what the completed development would look like. These are just some concept elevations, again, based on some past projects. Something similar to this design is what we'd be looking for. All our buildings are precast, TPO roof, plenty of windows and corner accents to make an attractive building. And that's really all I have for this preview. We're really excited about this opportunity and we think it could work out well. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Okay, let's start with Rebecca.
Thank you. First off, two questions, sorry. The first question was the picture you showed where the two different buildings, one was big, one was a little bit smaller. In comparison, how would you compare what you're proposing to what you showed us in that picture? One of the first pictures you showed us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, those are existing.
Yeah, I know. How did those compare in size?
These would be closer to the larger building. That one is 300,000 square
Okay.
feet. These are a little under 300.
Just a little under. Okay. So the next question, and this is pretty much the heart of my question. What types of tenants are you looking at? Are you looking at multiple tenants in each building? And when I'm asking that, the place I'm thinking of in my head is up in Wanakee. As you're coming into Wanakee on 19, there's that industrial park area and there's buildings back in there. And there's like multiple office type places, but there's also some industrial included in that. Is that the type or is this something different? I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah, so Chad Van de Zande is our broker. He's a little more familiar with what's in the market and the kind of tenants we'll probably be looking for. So I'll let him speak to that.
So Cushman Wakefield, Chad Van de Zande. I think with the dynamics of the marketplace, you're going to have a number of different type of users. They are industrial buildings. So these are institutional quality buildings. They're meant to service a number of different tenants, mostly industrial. So from anywhere from light manufacturing to some logistics to even some tech type of users that you're seeing from the Madison market and the type of product you see. We've had interest already from two tech type of campus users for two of those buildings that you've seen up on that building, but a very, very early interest because we're still in front of you and we don't know the final outcome here. But again, as Ken said, there could be up to 4 tenants in one of these buildings. They'll all have an office pod. Some of the light manufacturers will have a bigger, because in Wisconsin, we usually see, engineering, sales, call center type stuff within those offices, to, full on, I shouldn't say full on, but more logistics type where people need to come in to service the Madison area and get to their retail locations to deliver product.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. I appreciate that.
Other questions? Bill?
Yeah, I'm familiar with a lot of these buildings. I used to be a truck driver, LTL, went to these buildings, Milwaukee, Madison. I haven't been to Almeida in a long time. Well, it's GE now. I used to go there about every day, but I'll have to go down there and take a look at the building. Is it the same height as in the picture, pretty much?
Correct. So when you're driving past Almeida, when you went on the corner of Femrite, that was kind of open, that was future expansion they had. You'll see Techniplex is right on the interstate. Very similar building. That's a smaller building up front. Now that smaller building in context is 200,000 square feet.
Okay, that's what I saw when I went by.
Yeah, and so the larger building is just east of that off of Femrite and on the corner of Almeida Drive when you.
When I'm getting on from the Beltline.
When you would turn into
worried about
GE,
getting hit to get on and looking
Yeah.
over to there.
So-
Do you have tenants? I mean, it's a 300 square foot building and you'd like to have one tenant. But do you have an idea? You're going to break it into 5 tenants, 10 tenants?
So the great thing about Ken's company is that they do build really on speculative. So when he comes up, they're going to build tax base immediately, the first building they want to build. They build on a speculative basis. Sometimes we're lucky enough to have a tenant moving in. The first building, Techniplex, that was garnered by, they had a facility in Madison. They also had a facility in Milwaukee. They wanted like a lot of these manufacturers to upgrade their overall campus. So they moved it to Madison to a new location for not only recruiting for their employees to be in Madison and have a new facility. We got the building approved. We started going vertical on that. Before we even had the roof on, we had an agreement with Techniplex to take that building. Kind of the beauty of building on a speculative basis. People have an opportunity to come to the site, see the building going vertical. A lot of tenants don't make decisions before they can actually see the real estate.
Right.
They've made a career out of building these kind of buildings with the assumption that they're going to find a tenant. And again, that tenant in the building could be one tenant, like a Techniplex that takes the whole building. It could be up to 4 tenants. My guess is, Ken, that, we're going to be somewhere between 2 and 3 tenants in each one of these buildings. May get lucky for a full tenant type of facility, but that's yet to be seen.
And obviously with a $16 million building, you've done market research and there is a demand in this area. The building down here in Omita, is that full, both buildings, or?
No, the first building, the Techniplex is in the western building. The larger building in the back, we've got 2 tenants on leases right now. So we have the southern half of that building that's still vacant, looking for a tenant.
Very good, thank you.
Jim online has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Jim? Jim Simpson?
Thank you.
All
Yep,
right.
can you hear me? So
can
I
hear
was
you.
wondering if they could speak to as far as phasing. I'm assuming we're not going to build 3 buildings right away, or building 1, and then once that fills up, you would go to second and a third, or?
Yeah, exactly. Once we're through approvals, we'd like to get vertical on building 1 pretty quickly. After that, it'll be market dependent. If we fill building 1 up quickly, we'll likely want to get on to building 2, just so we have the space out there on the market. So building 1, go vertical quickly. After that, it'll be a little bit market dependent.
Okay.
I'd like to comment on that, a building takes approximately 12 months to build. So when you're completing 1, you've got that velocity that we've been in the market long enough to understand Madison and, other buildings going up in the marketplace, and they're confident on historical occupancy rates to get the other building going. Because again, it's going to be another 12 months before that next building would be delivered.
Okay.
Okay, and if I could do a follow-up, or why I asked that is, I'm curious how much you got into the engineering, and why I mentioned some of these things is the most southern lot, at least from the existing topography, it's tipping to the south. So I don't see a storm water basin that would actually accept that water. Are you planning on regrading the whole site? Or is it just not only a concept we're looking at, and we can obviously modify the building to fit a stormwater basin?
A little bit of both. We've done some preliminary engineering, and there's going to be synergy between all 3 sites. So there might be some more extreme cut areas on the south side of the site where we bring that up to the north. The idea is to have our water flow south to north in our concept engineering. But certainly there's more detail to get into there.
Okay. And also with the engineering part is, I just want to bring this as a point. Say with the grading, have you looked at soil borings yet? And why I mention it, I have a long-term resident that told me that site used to be a pond before the drainage district. So I just want to bring that up, that there might be extra depth of topsoil. So
We do have a soils report. There was what was flagged as a wetland on the southeast portion of the site. We went through DNR. They determined it was not a wetland. So that's gone. But there was on the southeast side of the site a depression.
Great.
But you're okay with the topsoil depths and everything as it
Yes.
stands? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we appreciate your taking the time to come and present and for us to get to know who you are. And we'll look forward to talking with you going forward.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. There is no old business. So we'll move to new business. And tonight, it's a discussion regarding engaged to forest moderation policy. As we all know, there has been concerns raised on multiple sides regarding how engaged to forest operates or how we're going to operate going forward. And we have, at the request of a couple of board members, put this on the agenda as a discussion item to begin to talk about what it is we might want to, how we might want to approach it. Bill, do you want to make any comments before we?
Yeah, well, I can jump in and provide a presentation if you would like. We do have Stacy, our communications specialist here, to discuss about the backside of Engaged to Forest. I do want to state that we, this website, as an attachment to our home website, was something that was introduced during the strategic planning process as one of the strategic objectives was to be more transparent and have more communication with the community. So we believe that it served that purpose. I do want to say, as you've read through the memo, there are parameters in which we can utilize to strengthen or limit the interaction, whether it be between the village and the population or between each other. Those parameters are preloaded into the program itself. We have spoken with Social Pinpoint, and we have the opportunity or the ability to have other parameters coded into the program. So on top of that, as the memo states, we could also set an internal policy on which tools, communication tools, to utilize for what topics. Again, following discussion and your direction, we can go ahead and implement it at that point. We're here to listen, so thank you.
And can you just for 1 minute, when we spoke, and maybe it's Stacy, you talked a little bit about the operation, and you talked about we have some options for how we could approach commentary on the site. I think this is important because, you know, when Engaged to Forest was developed, it was, you know, highly felt by this board, the entire board, that it was a good thing to do. And that we wanted to be able to share information and we wanted to hear from residents. So figuring out how to do that is, I think, what's important. And figuring out how to do it so we get some peace. So Stacy or Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about the types of options?
So I can jump into it, and Stacy can correct me when I'm wrong. So a couple of different options here. So what we do is we have a automatic moderation process. As you can see in the post here, there are initial screening steps here. They look for banned words. They look for anything that may alert. There are live moderators as part of that moderation rules. Do note that the moderators are live. They're hired as a third party to Social Pinpoint, so we don't get to choose who they are. Once that is alerted, or if they believe that there's something that potentially could be potentially banned, they then send it to us and we review it. So we use the post moderation process. So, you know, comments and content are reviewed after it's posted. So it could be that, you know, someone posts it, people see it, and then it gets pulled off, goes to the moderation process, and then gets added back on. So you can choose the post moderation, or you can choose a pre-moderation. And what that is that before it gets posted, it just goes through that moderation process. Thirdly, you can choose to just have no moderation by Social Pinpoint. And so if that's the case, then the moderation is done internally, whether by staff or someone that we hire to do that. So beyond the moderation process, there are parameters that are set. So the automatic automated content screening, ban words, spam protection. And then there is a moderation interface. That's what we're talking about when it goes to the moderation process, comes back to staff for final review. So this all talks about that moderation process to whether approve, refer, or reject. Let me jump here now to the memo, which discusses in detail the parameters. So following the request that we had to bring this discussion to the table here, we did reach out to Social Pinpoint and have a discussion on what type of tools are available. So here you'll see, let me enlarge this. So the tools that we have in each subpage, when we build a tool to provide data and content about a particular subject, we can choose the specific method for which we receive input. And they're listed here. The tools are to gather, social map, visioner, funded, conversation, form, question and answer, forum, which was used on the fluoride issue, and then a quick poll. I do want to say that we have used some of these other tools in other format types on different subjects. For example, if you remember the whole section on culling and wildlife management, I believe we used the conversation for that one, right? Not the forum. So within specific tool sets here, that's where I'm talking about, attributes of and subset of parameters. So there are things that we can control, like for example, the forum has what's called a thread, where you can respond back to comments on that forum. We can change that so that it's more flat, so that it's just commenting towards the subject matter itself. The issue is you're still going to have people that will go around that system and be able to post. The requirement, we've heard a lot about, using nicknames or using emails. Those are standard attributes that are listed there. There's a couple others that are listed. Address is, or street address is not a parameter that comes originally, so it would have to be programmed in. And Social Pinpoint, depending on what the direction is and what kind of information the board wants to collect, we'd have to program that in and direct them. There could be, we could direct Social Pinpoint to have some kind of agreement on the website before you comment. There's been some suggestions here that, the page be utilized as a way to get information out, and then the way that we receive information is through some kind of inbox where it gets emailed directly to trustees. We'll have to explore that to see if that can be done. So the website itself is flexible, and I think they've shown a willingness to work with us to maintain some type of engagement between the community and the government organization itself. We talked about the internal policy as we can set it. We can be more restrictive than Social Pinpoint, although, if we are more restrictive, then that's on us to monitor and administer. I did provide a memo from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities that has been put out in regards to social media use and the differences between an open forum and a limited forum, and the parameters of such and the liabilities and risks of each of those. So that kind of sets, I think, the arena for your discussion this evening. Stacy, did I miss anything?
All right. Well, with that, let's open it up for discussion. Tashidra.
First of all, thank you, Bill and Stacy, for all your work. I remember when we first had this discussion on Engage DeForest and the purpose of it. And that was for transparency and to bring the community together and make sure that we were disseminating information to the community and fostering, adequate dialogue and making sure that we were keeping everybody properly informed. And I just see that this is just increasing the workload, increasing efforts, and offering opportunity for more discord, dissension, and the pulling apart of the community, which is disheartening, and not the original intent. One of the things that is concerning is when you put individuals in charge of monitoring and sensing the comments of other people, and you open the doors of individuals making decisions that could be seen as capricious or biased or different things of that nature. And I want to make sure that we are careful with that, because people's comments are just that, they're comments. And when you get into subjective data, it's difficult to regulate that. And that is not the original purpose of Engage DeForest. And I feel like the more we try to do things that pull us away from our original intent, the more difficult it is to do what we want to do, which is make sure that we're maintaining our small town feel, our family feel, and what we need to do. And if this tool is not rendering our original intent, I think we need to circle the wagons and get back to what our purpose was. And that is how I feel about Engage DeForest. If it is not doing what we intended it to do in the first place, we need to really take a step back and reflect on what are we trying to do. We are always going to have difficult decisions to make, difficult topics. And I'm hoping we can get to the point where we can have those topics, have those discussions, make those decisions, but not tear our community apart. And if this platform is another mode and means to do that, then we need to, as a board, decide, is this a platform that we even need to use? Because when we start censoring and monitoring and adding more cost and doing more things, then we really need to say, is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it worth it? And if it's not, then we just need not to do it.
All right, thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I echo a lot of Trustee Allen's things. Engage came out of our strategic plan to say street projects. People could come and see what we've gonna do in 2025. It's listed. There weren't a comment section for things like that. I think the first one was something, and then the deer issue where you could put comments on, and that was pretty good. There was some response back to some of these comments, but it was very calm. And then we got to this issue, and sorry to give the analogy, but it turned into the Satan of the internet, like Reddit, where neighbor was pitted against neighbor. My neighbor was torn apart. This woman does a lot for the community. She was blasted. She is involved with Dragon Arts Fair, and her activities there were brought up on the forum as negative. And it's like, wow. I think we have four choices. We can keep the Satan of the internet like it is. Number two would be to monitor it, but then you've got all these costs. Stacy's not going to look at it 24 hours a day. And then you get into the issue of censor people's comments and First Amendment, and that's a whole nother ball of wax. Third option could be a dialogue box. Instead of an open forum, you have a dialogue box that you put your comments in. It's sent to the trustees, Callie, our record keeper, and maybe Bill. And if we choose as trustees to respond to your comments, we could. But sometimes the public feels that since they sent a message to all 7 trustees that we need to, each one needs to respond or else they weren't heard. That's kind of a caution. The 4th idea would be just compile the comments. There's a spot, like when we did the comprehensive plan for the parks or parks, or the pool, say the pool. You could submit your comments, they were compiled, and then when the issue came up for a vote, it's available to the public, like on our agenda. Anybody here can look at our agenda topics and supporting documentation. At that time, it could be presented to us and to the public. And I didn't think of option 4 at first. I thought option 3 would be a good compromise. But, you know, if we're going to keep engaged to force, I'm going to support option 4 at the very least, where we compile your comments. The public, the residents can make a comment. They will be seen, like with the pool or with the comprehensive plan for the parks. We saw those, you know, this person didn't like this person like this. We saw those. We can't have the Satan of the internet. It just tears the community apart. And I will not support option 1. 2 is there is no cost figure right now of how we want to do it. We could go that way. Then you get into censorship issues. So I feel either option 3 or option 4 moving forward. Oh, and you know, on Engage the Forest, right now there's probably 20 things, subjects or whatever. And there isn't an option to comment on each one, I don't think. Only some of the things like the deer or the fluoride. Why can't they comment on the street section? There's no box now or forum for, say, street repairs in 2025. Who determines that? Who determines what topic gets a forum? I don't think that's been established.
Well, let's put that on the list and then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Clint?
I said I'd like to know the answer to that rather than just bringing these things up. Who does determine whether it's a body?
Yeah, so that's a team effort in regards to who puts that subject material up there. For example, when you go and you look at the development page, that development has a ton of information on there, PDFs, pages, et cetera. So, you know, adding comments to each of those developments at this point in time doesn't make much sense. You wait until the public hearing, et cetera. You know, another one that we have on Engage the Forest is the discussion on birdhouses. You know, we were nationally recognized for our efforts for that, and I think Stacy actually presented at a conference on that. That was an engagement tool, you know, that worked out. We had, I believe, comments on that one too. And so that type of project carried or needed more engagement, talking back and forth. So we work as a team and we kind of select the tools that we feel is the most worthy of that subject, given, again, parameters set by the village board. It happens that the fluoride issue is highly controversial. It's not the first one. It's not the last one. And so, unfortunately, the conversation went sideways on it, allegations on both sides. And as I've informed all of you, this community needs to come together. You know, this isn't going to be the last issue, and we need to decide how we would like to discuss these issues moving forward.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill makes some good points. We have used Engage to Forest for quite a while, and it's been very successful. And it was in response to the community saying to us, I didn't know about that project. I didn't know about what was happening with, whether it's the 4th of July or whatever. I do see Jim. And I think it has been fairly successful. We've had survey areas, we've had other ways for people to comment on projects. As Bill said, you can, see when the public hearings are and come to a public hearing. So, it's one of those things where we need to figure out how not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as my mother would have said. And we need to figure out how we all take responsibility for respecting one another and being kind to one another and still being able to voice opinions. And there have been problems on the board with comments. There's been problems in the community with comments. And I'm hoping that we can get to a point where we can have commentary or discourse without shooting at one another. So with that, Jim, you had your hand up, and then Rebecca.
Yep, and thank you for saying a lot of what I wanted to say. It's like, I think this was a really good effort as far as like picking this program. I think it served a lot of good purposes. I think it's good for sharing information. I mean, we can use it for Riverfest, but I wanted to say again what Bill had already said is that this is not the only controversial thing we've had. We've had things, say in the recent past, I think the most recent one was maybe mountain biking, and then there was pin seekers before that, and my time goes all the way back to say like Flying J. We're going to continually have controversial topics, but I think it's important that we get the public input. So I think it's important that we keep engaged with Forest. The couple ideas I have, and I do think Bill Landgraf has a lot of good ideas with, say, do we just collect the comments? Again, the idea I have is, what if we say do what we did, but generally the topics run okay, but as soon as there's any signs of bullying, I think we should be like shutting down the topic. And then we maybe change it to only having comment boxes, because we shouldn't be leaving, in my opinion, we should not be leaving those out there for public viewing. I think that's a disservice to our citizens. And the other thing that I think we should search into too is what words are being flagged, because I think one word that was flagged in this specific case was the word acid. And I think it was an appropriate term to be using in the comment boxes, but it wasn't allowed. So I think we should look at that. I'm sure there's other words that depending on the topic that we should be allowing. But I would say if there's any profanity, I think that should be an outright, that person is disqualified. But if there's any bullying on whatever topic, that topic should be shut down and maybe switch to comments only or just removed. And I think that's all of my comments I want to say. But again, I think it's a good program that I think we should keep. We just need to figure out a way to monitor it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And I'm looking at Al, when you said that we have to be careful with censorship, and we have to be careful if we put a site up and then we don't like something that's on it, as long as it's not profanity, I'm not sure we have a right or it's wise to take it down. And I turn to Al on that. You had a good memo. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, the problem is when you're trying to pick out what speech is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, you get into subjective issues. What is bullying? Can anybody give me a definition of what bullying really is? What's bullying to some people is a good hearty debate to other people. And you're opening yourself up to a claim of unlawful censorship if you start drawing lines where you think they should be drawn, where other people would disagree. And that's why, you kind of have the option of, you either let people say what they want to say, short of true threats of violence. Profanity, you can regulate to an extent, probably. That's not all that clear. You can limit the number of times people can talk or post. You can limit the site to DeForest residents or some, other group of people. You can limit it to the topic of, say, fluoride in this case. Most of those things are not going to solve the problem that you're talking about, though. What you're basically saying is that, there's some speech that some people don't like. I can assure you that almost anything that was said, somebody liked it. As many people that didn't like it, there were still some that really thought it was good. And, the one principle that you always have to keep in mind is that we don't need a First Amendment to protect popular speech. If everybody likes it, you don't need a First Amendment because everybody will let it happen. It's the unpopular speech, the Hustler magazine case, the Progressive magazine case, the New York Times versus Sullivan case, all those cases where, people got upset over something that was printed or said. Those cases all involve violations of the First Amendment because the government was stepping in to stop people from talking. The people in the back of this room, they can open up all the websites they want and the chat rooms and whatever, and they can block people. They can cut out any comments that they want because they don't like to hear them. But you as the government can't do that. And you're in a unique situation where if you decide to open it up, you've opened it up for the most part.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Because when I say shut it down, I mean maybe shut it down from public viewing. So it, to me, isn't necessarily censorship. It just becomes not viewed to the public. It goes directly to the village board. Does that still fall in that concern of yours, Alan?
You're under no obligation to have the site in the first place. So you're under no obligation to have it interactive. You can set it up any way you want in terms of people being able to communicate with you. But if you set it up so that people can post whatever comments they want and other people can see them, you got to accept the fact that some people aren't going to like what they see.
Yeah. Let's see you.
My turn. Okay. I agree with pretty much everything everybody has been talking about here. What happened on Engage DeForest, it shouldn't have happened the way it did. What started out as an opportunity to get feedback from the public about what their opinion was as far as whether to keep or remove fluoride. It basically turned into a free-for-all bash fest. A lot of anonymous posts were targeting different people. One in particular, which really set me off, was when they attacked Sheila. And it was a pretty vicious attack. It was, because it's an anonymous attack, an anonymous poster, she doesn't have any recourse, even though it probably, I'm not an attorney, but my personal opinion is it crossed a legal line. And if that person were known, she would have a recourse. But all that said, anonymity can be really vicious. People begin to become someone else. And that's really a real tragedy, because what you were saying before, what Trustee Allen was saying, the original purpose of our Engage DeForest was to allow more interaction, to allow more input, to make sure the public saw more of what we're doing, being more transparent. I fully support that, just like I fully support trying to get the input from the people. But at the same time, it's got to be safe for everyone, not just, you talk about, well, some people aren't going to like somebody's opinion. what somebody writes. Well, that may be true, but does that mean that they have to allow themselves to be subjected to what somebody earlier said, bullying? No, I don't think we as a village board should be allowing our public taxpayer-funded resources to be used in a way that makes people in our community feel unsafe to voice their concerns. Yes, exactly. We don't want our people, anybody, to feel unsafe on these platforms that we provide. And I'm very concerned about what happened. Now, what happens moving forward? I think some of the suggestions that have been made, I think are really good. Either gathering these comments and sending them to our emails, or preferably gathering them in bulk and providing them to us. I don't think we should be providing another Nextdoor. They can go on Nextdoor and bash people all they want there, but I don't think our resources should be being allowed to be used that way. We've got to foster a more respectful dialogue with folks. We had people from all over the place, not just DeForest, who were on that platform, and they were silencing people who didn't feel safe, who felt attacked. And we as a board need to help set the example. And Trustee Allen said it so eloquently at the last meeting. Our kids are watching us. What are we telling them? What are we teaching them? Are we teaching them to be keyboard warriors behind the veil of anonymity? No, we're not going to do that, or at least I'm not going to be allowing that on my watch. I love this Engage DeForest. I think it's been exceptionally useful tool for the village. It's been helpful, and I want to see it succeed. But I don't ever want to see what happened happen again, because that was, in my opinion, unacceptable.
Tashidra, and then I have a few comments.
I was gonna go, remember?
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tashidra, and then Jan.
I win. I just wanted to just add, Bill, because I know every time you bring something, you want suggestions and feedback, and I never want to say anything without offering some solutions or some input. I do like Engage DeForest. I like why we put it out there. I like why we have it. And so, and I do know that we've put out things that the community has really enjoyed. And I go on Engage DeForest and I like what I see. So one of the things that I was wanted to put out there is there a way that we can continue to put forth the wonderful things that the staff is doing, because they should know what you guys are doing. You guys work hard for the village and they need to know that. And we have a hardworking village. Not everybody can come to these meetings. Not everybody can review the video that we record. And so is there a way that we can continue to put out and disseminate the information that we're doing? And if people have comments that they want to share, or they have questions and concerns, that they can get that information to us and that we can receive it, and then we can engage with them so that we are still having that dialogue. Because right now it is an unscripted monologue that has turned into discord, right? And so it allows us to still engage with our constituents. It still allows them to give their feedback, kind of like a survey monkey, right? They put forth their information so that they're still being heard. I still want their voices. People still need to be heard. And it comes to the village board. So we're still using AI and the technology. And it gives us the opportunity to respond back to them, whether it's all 7 or 5 or 4 or whatever the case may be, so that we're still using this tool effectively. We're not increasing the costs, but we're still contained and we're still giving a dialogue. We're not censoring anyone. We're not monitoring what people do and don't say. So if someone wants to voice their opinion, and it does have a little bit of rage in it because they need to get that out, they are able to, because we are human and we have that moment where we're upset and we want that emotion to be heard, because that's real too. When you're upset, when you're angry, that needs to be heard. I want to know when you're upset with something that I have said or I have done, because I'm imperfect as well. And so that is a suggestion that I have, is that I want to hear what people have to say in their authentic voice. I don't want it to be scripted or sprinkled with sprinkles or whatever the case may be. So that's one of the suggestions that I have, is that we can still get their information, you know, take it in as a board, but then still engage with them so that we're keeping that holistic connection with the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we can ask the question to Social Pinpoint. I don't think the issue here is with the information that we're providing, right? I don't think that's the issue. The issue is, how are the comments being received? How is the content back being received and published? So, you know, at the very least, I think, you know, what we can do is be able to provide links to your emails and utilize your inbox without a official comment box. What I would be cautious of, and Tashida, you had talked about the back and forth, is that we need to ensure that as these comments are going, they're going to individual emails so that there's no walking quorum behind the scenes. So those are some of the traps that I kind of want to be cognizant of. Or if in a situation where it's a hot topic and someone may have responded to the whole village board, gets 3 or 4 trustees talking at that time, and that becomes a walking quorum too. So what I would suggest, and as we go through this process, is let Stacy and I figure a way to get responses in and somehow disseminate that to back to the public and back to you, and have whatever policy discussion here at the village board. I think that would be the way I would recommend doing it.
Thank you. Jan, I'm sorry, we saved the best.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Bill and Stacy for handling the Engage site. I know it's not easy, and it's not all fun and games, and there's some tough spots. There's a lot of things about Engage that I do like. I guess what concerns me is the forum part. I think it's very important to hear from the residents what they want. As a village board member, I want to hear those things. But I don't think that we need to provide that platform of residents going back and forth between themselves. There's plenty of other social media outlets for people to do that. So I would like to see if we could code in our program. Well, I guess, first of all, maybe use one of the other options that we're speaking of, about the board members getting the direct emails, or doing just question and answer, yes or no. Do you want this? Do you not want this? That type of thing. The other item, I guess, that I see as an issue is I would like to see names and addresses given. Not that we need to post people's addresses, but I think that if you're going to comment on a village website, you should put your name and your address in it so that the village has it. Like taking the fluoride issue, as a trustee, I'm trying to gather information from our residents. And then maybe a little bit further from that, I'm trying to figure out who's in the DeForest area school district. You know, from the replies that were out there and people commenting, you didn't know if they were from some other state. You didn't know if someone had 10 different emails that they were using. So a lot of the information that I saw on the Engage site, I disregarded unless I could tell who they actually were. And I don't think that's the reason for having the Engage site. We want to hear from our residents or people in the surrounding communities who our decisions affect. And so I would like to see some sort of something coded into our program so that that is something that the village has access to. Like I said, I don't feel that we need to print people's addresses, but the village needs it. And I think we also need something in there where whoever's commenting checks off that they agree to our core values and specific commenting, just as how our newspaper, if you write in, you have to give your name and address for them to print one of your letters, but there's also a list of things that you have to kind of comply with. So I guess those are the things that I would like to see going forward. I wouldn't want to get rid of the Engage site completely. I'd just like to, I think I definitely want to get rid of the forum where people are going, residents are going back and forth between themselves. Thanks.
Okay. Al, it looks like you want to speak.
I just wanted to point out that if you ask for addresses and you get them, you don't have to publish them, but they are still public. So, I mean, they'd still be available to people, so half a loaf maybe.
Yes, I realize that they still are public. Like people's addresses are public in a lot of places. But I think that I would still like to see that.
Okay. I see Jim's hand. And he will be next. One of the things that I wanted to comment on that has bothered me through this whole process is that some of our board members have continued conversations and some of our residents on social media sites outside of Engage DeForest. So it may have started on Engage, but then it went to Facebook and it went to South of North and it went, somebody told me about Reddit. I don't read Reddit, but you know, I think we have to be careful and show respect and be very mindful that what we say on social media can come back to bite us in a lot of different ways or cause a lot of bad feelings. So I'm hoping as board members, not to say I do everything right, you know, I don't do much right, but I don't post on social media for a reason. I think that it can be very misunderstood. And a lot of the people who have called me have called to complain or to be concerned about things that were said to them on social media that beyond Engage DeForest. So as a board, I caution us to think about what we're posting and when we post it and where we post it. So Jim, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to add a comment to what Jan said, is if we have them, say, review our mission or agree to that, maybe what we also ask is that they put their city or their street right after their name. So I would be Jim DeForest. So then when we're scrolling, we can actually see that they're a resident or not. And the other question I want to ask, being that the fluoride vote has happened, I see that I still can find it on Engage DeForest. I'm just wondering if we can remove that forum from our page now, or is that again a concern of Alan's? And I'm hoping I don't think it sheds a good light on DeForest, and it'd be nice to have that button removed.
And I don't think it's interactive anymore, is it, Stacy? We can't, it's not received.
No, it's not.
You don't have an obligation to keep that up. You can take that down anytime you want, as long as you're not doing it based on the viewpoints. And frankly, there are viewpoints that are on all sides of that issue. So I don't think you have any concerns about taking it all down.
Yeah, I would make a request to take it down at this point.
Okay. Well, this was an item for discussion, not for. Oh, Colleen, please.
I might as well put my 2 cents in. I don't want to see it disappear either because it was a highly touted way of communicating with the community. I remember all those conversations about how we can't get any feedback, how do we communicate, how do we communicate? So we put this up. And I've never yet seen a social media site that didn't turn into a name-calling mess, to be honest with you. And I've seen a couple of my fellow board members out there in the midst of it all also, which would be nice if that would stop. I don't want it to come down. I think it'd be great if it could be restricted just to residents. I don't know if that's possible. There's been some good suggestions made, but I don't want to see it go away. I do want to hear what the community has to say. I'm just sorry that it sunk to this low level this last time. We sunk pretty low with pin seekers at a couple of points too, and that wasn't even a social media site. That was just verbal stuff. I don't know. I guess we just have some nasty people out there that no matter what we do, they're going to come at us. I mean, there's stuff going on out there about different issues in the village now. Some of them are half truths, some of them are quarter truths. It's sickening. But I look at it just to see what the community is saying about what's going on. Most of it's nowhere near what's really going on. I wish very much that people would find an email address, find a phone number, give me a call here, whatever, please. That's the only way you're going to find out what's really going on. And I know I'm a little off topic here, but yeah, this was disgusting, what went on with this conversation. But I want to keep engaged, Forrest.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've heard from everyone on the board. And I think staff has a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Sure you can.
Okay, so I do the Gage DeForest page. I work with, so first of all, I just looked up 83,000 views on our page. We started in May of 2023. Here we are. Last year, I was asked by Social Pinpoint. I went out to the IAP2 conference to speak on our engagement platform. Engagement platform is not to just have a one-way conversation. It is to have that two-way street. Sometimes you hear information or stuff you don't want to hear. Sometimes you hear stuff you do want to hear. That's the beauty of it, right? It's moving that conversation off of a different social media platform and bringing it into a platform that we can control. We can run that report and we can see everything versus looking at multiple social media posts. And we've had 38, I think, projects up there. One went a little sideways. If you look at the forum, the conversation started off really strong. Unfortunately, because we did do that, I'm drawing a blank, the conversation where people could comment back and forth, it went sideways. If you look at that threading, there's a tendency on a thread of how that conversation got to where it went and how things kind of went ugly. Unfortunately, I didn't know about the fact versus the conversation. Lesson learned. Every project doesn't always require conversation. Some projects are out there just for purely notifying the village, such as a streets project. We are just letting residents know that your street is going to be under reconstruction, resurfacing. There's an interactive map. Some projects might require more interaction with the community of what's going on in your neighborhood. I don't think that this one project that went maybe wrong or went sideways should really like hinder your opinions on the platform. So that's all.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that. Yes, Bill.
So like everything that I think we do here, we learn from our mistakes. We learn from, the actions that we take here. I think we can all concur here that Engage DeForest is a great website. It's a great tool to use to disseminate information. Again, the question becomes, how do we engage with the residents? I'm not saying that Engage DeForest is the only way to engage with residents. We can move, and we have and are moving to neighborhood meetings. We've done that with the budget. We've gone out to the neighborhoods. We're doing that with park and recreation. We're going out to certain parks for design. There are listening sessions, there are public hearings. And so as we start to build what I'm calling our communications department, there's education that we can put out there. And I think that this Engage the Forest is a helpful tool to help us to allow us to get there. What I like to offer and recommend here is give me a meeting or two to put together what it looks like a process here, particularly involving the comments back once we've put out that information, how that's disseminated back to the village board. And it sounds like we need some internal policy here too about when to use what to engage. And so give me that opportunity. I'm going to try to move us forward in this discussion. And we'll be back here in a couple months.
All right, thank you. I would
I'd
at
say
this,
in the meantime, can we take down the forum for fluoride, or do we want to talk about that?
this wasn't an item for action.
I think it's staff direction.
Well, you've made your request and, you know, we
Yeah.
can look at that.
Yeah, we'll review it and I'll
Okay.
make that call.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, I have 3 tired firefighters in the back and, they're
He's still awake.
they're here for item 10.9. Would somebody,
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 10.9 up for discussion, please.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right,
Motion opposed, motion carries. We will move 10.9 forward and take it up at this point. And incidentally, we have Chief Lefebvre, Steve Lefebvre. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, just because you're not here in front of us very often. Great, thank you. I'm assuming that's the item you're here for. Thank you, Steve. All right. Resolution 2025-013, a resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for fire and EMS services with the village of Windsor. Let me say that we that are on the fire district board jointly with Windsor have been working on this agreement. Bill Chang, Tina Buttress, Al and Attorney Cole, who works with Windsor, Chief Lefebvre and the staff have all been focusing on this agreement in order to bring it up to date. There were just some things that were out of whack, like the name and other things, but also to give it some longevity so that the fire district knows, you know, both communities are committed and for how long. And so you had an agreement in your packet. I would ask Bill Chang to comment. Chief Lefebvre and the team are here to answer questions, should you have any other questions of them.
All right. So as the memo reports, the current intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Windsor for fire and EMS services is expired in 2022. It is automatically renewed, so we are currently year to year. It was our intention when going into these discussions to settle on a long-term agreement, which really sets the foundation for the villages to have that wider discussion about eventual fire station number 2 and future operations. And so you will see that this agreement here is a 20-year agreement. As we went through the process, we took the opportunity to provide updates to items within the agreement that were outdated. This agreement allows for the district, upon approval from the municipalities, to go ahead or to have a second or third or fourth satellite, again, upon approval of the municipalities. So it's just clarifying language for the agreement itself. That's okay. That's not your problem.
You got a puppy under there?
There's some, we cleaned up parameters in regards to canceling a district meeting, district board meeting. I don't believe those parameters were in there before. Clarified district board duties and powers, including that the district is the employment agency for the firefighting and emergency medical personnel. There was a creation or language creating a joint fire commission. That's to resolve personnel matters, so hiring, firing, grievances, etc. There was a removal of the section regarding volunteer membership. So if you remember, about 2 years ago, we moved away from a volunteer firefighting unit. We updated the budget calendar to match the current practices. What we found was there was a quite specific budget process for the fire department. And in talking with Windsor, neither municipality was following that process. As you know, both communities, our community in particular, like to approve the fire budget along with the rest of our budget and not ahead of time. There's some language about Windsor's option to have vehicles or other signage changed to reflect the new name that's left over from the old agreement here. And then there was, we beefed up the language in regards to dissolution of the agreement or dissolution of the organization from 18 months to 5 calendar years. We believe that if we're going to venture into this opportunity together, that there should be more time if one decides to terminate and remove itself. It's my understanding, as reported by Chief Lefebvre earlier, that Windsor did pass the resolution to adopt this intergovernmental agreement at their meeting today. This is the first step, again, in a long series of discussions to be had about the design for the second station, the cost share for the second station, and potentially how do we finance both the capital side and the operations side for the fire station number 2. I'll take questions at this point.
Okay, are there any questions? Yes, Rebecca.
I'm in favor of this. I just want to be very transparent in that I'm very much on the fence at this point related to the second fire station until we can ascertain how it's going, how the ongoing operations are going to be funded reliably. I don't want to have happen again what happened recently with our budget, getting that incredibly huge hit. I think a lot of people are not happy about that. I know I'm not. And I want to make sure that internal financial, whatever, all that, how that's done is actually being done properly so that that doesn't happen again. I know there's issues or have been issues in the past as far as how things are received from outside reimbursements. That's the word I'm looking for, how they're reimbursed. And I just want to make sure that we've got some mechanism to ensure that best practices are being used to receive those reimbursements in a timely manner and to ensure that we're not missing deadlines and stuff like that. I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened, but I just want to make sure that we're really, because we can't, otherwise I'm very much on the fence at this point.
Thank you. And just let me say, I've been working with Steve and the fire department has been working very hard on the billing issue. And it doesn't lie in the fire department, it lies with the billing company. And we have, Bob and I and an attorney for the fire district have been working with Steve on trying to remedy this situation. Carol and Tina and Cheryl, is that her name? I always lose Windsor's count. Cindy, yeah, Howard, have been looking at the issue as well. So, you know, that is being worked on. And we have a fire chief that is extremely committed to excellence. And so he is committed to resolving this problem, and I appreciate his emphasis on doing so. Yes.
I echo some of Trustee Witherspoon's comments, but the main thing is transparency moving forward. You know, we're talking about a second fire station. The going to the full-time department instead of volunteers was a change a lot of the village didn't realize happened. We don't have the people that work within a half mile of the fire station can drop everything, get on the fire wagon and, or EMS. Those days are gone and a lot of departments are going through that. But just going forward, we're talking a lot of money. And fire station, trucks are $1 million or so a piece, but those don't do any good because you have to have a human being on the truck or two in the ambulance. There's quite a few costs coming forward, and I just hope both communities, well, all the communities in the district are engaged, knowing the costs, knowing what not doing something will cost in time or things like that. But hopefully we just have the communication to the residents of all the communities to know what's coming.
Thank you. Colleen?
Chief, do you want to address any of that, or can he address any of that? Otherwise, let me just say that I assure you that the second station is for a purpose. The second station is not because the chief decided he wanted the second station. He's got all the numbers and whatnot to show you how the calls for service have increased to the south of this area of the village right now due to new construction. There's people down there now. Their response times from this station to the people down there are stretching out. This is needed. We just met with some architects. He is looking at a minimal station, keeping in mind future needs, but he's certainly not planning on moving half a dozen trucks down there, so.
We're getting a little off topic.
Pardon me?
We are off topic, and
I'm sorry, I'm just saying that, you know, before we question.
Point of order.
Oh, please.
right. And so, well, for everyone, that, you know, we got off on this second station topic and we're on the intergovernmental agreement at this point, so. Nope, got it.
Point of order, our motives should not be questioned. Yeah, you can do that all you
All
want.
right, all right, all right.
I was not questioning the need for the station. I was questioning the financing.
All right, but we're on intergovernmental agreement at this point, so let's deal with that. Thank you.
Madam President, I apologize.
I make a motion to approve resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break because the chair needs it. And then come back. Thank you. Ordinance 10.1, an ordinance amending Chapter 15 of the zoning code pertaining to the site and building plan submittal and review procedures. Mark Roffers, you want to walk us through a little bit of it?
Maybe I'll take that from you in a second. But I'm good right now. Thank you, Jane. I'm here to talk about this ordinance amendment that's been working its way through Planning and Zoning Commission. It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Quick backstory, about 10 years ago, as part of an effort to streamline development review processes, we, the village, developed a process to separate site plans into site plans that continue to require P and Z approval, and those site plans that could be approved by staff. And that's been very helpful from time to time in getting some economic development projects going, for instance. We have over the years learned there's a few pitfalls. The line between what goes to P and Z and what doesn't is kind of fuzzy. Sometimes we ask P and Z for opinions on so-called minor site plans or staff site plans, and they're not quite sure what to do with that information. We have increasingly larger and complicated proposals, sometimes involving chemicals or a lot of people congregating, and the need for getting more and better information from applicants up front. So that sets the stage for what we are proposing to do with this ordinance. Three main things. We are proposing to extend timeframes for review out a little bit. The main reason for that is, especially with these big projects, it allows us to work with the applicants over the weeks before it goes to P and Z to get things tuned up, to get plans revised, so we don't have pages of conditions or postponed actions. The second thing we're proposing to do is to draw a clearer line between those site plans that require P and Z review and those site plans that can go to staff and get staff approval to kind of eliminate some of the fuzziness that we've dealt with from time to time. The third thing we're doing is to make sure that our submittal requirements for site plan applicants are clear and comprehensive so that P and Z staff, others are getting what we need to properly evaluate proposals when they're brought forward. There's an ordinance in your packet. P and Z has recommended that ordinance. We had a public hearing at P and Z. I'm happy to answer any questions on the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Mark or Randy? Is that a hand up?
Yeah.
All right.
Just very quick. I think Bill Chang had answered this question for me, but I just want to make sure that I truly understood. This is more just clarification rather than actually changing anything. Or is anything specifically changed? I was reading through and it was kind of.
There's no substantive standards that are changing. Like, we're not requiring more landscaping or less landscaping or buildings that look differently. It's process stuff that we're proposing to change.
And then and as part of this, is it going to, I can't remember if I asked you this question, sorry. I've slept a couple times since then. Is it gonna ultimately cause an increase in costs to the developers or the individual homeowners that might be wanting to build?
I
or what have you?
apologize for that.
I'm just wanting to make sure that we're not creating more bureaucracy that we really, I think this is probably fine. I didn't see anything that stood out to me that caused me to pause, but I'm just wanting to make sure that we're not causing any more headache for people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It does, yeah.
This ordinance will not affect anyone who's interested in a single family home or a single family lot at all. It affects commercial, industrial, multiple family development projects. It technically extends the time frame that we need applications from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. But from a practical standpoint, we're we're scrambling with the applicants within that 4-week time frame in ways that are uncomfortable for everyone. So I think it'll be better. In terms of submittal requirements, we are asking for a couple of additional things that in many cases have come up sort of after the fact, like, oh, you're handling ammonia or whatever. Ugh, it comes up at a P and Z meeting rather than nice and early when we can kind of cope with it better.
Okay.
So I would, to be fair, it's probably increasing the submittal requirements on applicants somewhat.
Okay, but the way you answered that just reminded me of what we discussed, because it was more in the requirement aspect, it was extending the time because you guys just couldn't respond in the time frame that was currently in there, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, the workload was
We could and did, but it wasn't.
Right,
a
it
lot
was
of
just
fun
very
for
difficult.
anyone, and we'd often have proposals coming to P and Z that weren't probably fully baked, but we
Okay.
didn't want to push them off a month because it was an important project.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
But we have a motion and a second, and now we've more discussion. We have Jim Simpson with his hand up and Al. So let's go to Al and then Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted to address what Mark was talking about. There are some additional requirements up front, some additional information that we're asking for, which at that stage of the development, yes, it will put more of a burden on the developer. But in the long run, I think it's actually going to save them time and money because just using the example that Mark gave about somebody who we find out at the last minute is, going to be handling ammonia. Well, if that comes up 3 days before the P and Z meeting where the site plan is going to be approved, the approval will be with conditions like you got to put together a plan for how you're going to handle emergencies dealing with your ammonia. So then they're doing that after the fact, so they're going to do it one way or the other. It's just the timing of when they do it. So I think what you're going to see with these changes is you'll see a little more work up front and a lot less work on the back end.
Thank you, Al. Jim Simpson?
Yeah, I guess I had submitted 4 different points. I don't know if staff has time to look at that, but one of them was more or less directly what Rebecca was talking about as far as the time. So I have a bit of a background that I used to work for developers, and as you know, like time is money. So I was pretty critical of extending the time. But the more I thought about it, what tended to happen when, say, you were limited, I think it was 60 days, and like one is turning the 90 days. Once you start running into those days, there's a threat of, well, we're going to have to deny you because we can't do anything else. So then you, as a developer or developer's assistant, you allow it to extend. So in effect, we're putting the extension in there. And I am confident staff is going to continue the work as diligent as they can. And hopefully we will probably more likely hit the 60 days that we had originally in there. We just have that extra buffer of another 30 days that we don't have to go through the technicality of extending.
Jim, this is Mark. I did get your comments in advance and I have up on screen, if you can see it, some potential responses.
I do not see it, but.
Oh, okay.
It's not being shared.
Am I good now? Okay.
Can you say it, Jim?
Yeah.
So Jim, you made more of a technical comment, but it did tie to timing. So the comment that you made on timing was, is giving ourselves 90 days for a major site plan too much time. And I would say in normal circumstances, nearly every circumstance, it gives us plenty of time. But there are some occasions where, we've got a holiday irregular schedule. Maybe we get a application the day before Thanksgiving and we can't get them on the early December agenda. So we have to put it on the late January agenda. So that, pushes us off, awful close to, if not beyond the 60 days. Those kind of things happen rarely. If you wanted to, I think we could make this all happen in 75 days on just about every occasion. But 90 days is the current proposal. So, you can certainly suggest an amendment there. Jim, you had I don't want to steal your thunder, but you had a minor suggestion to move the location
45.
of where the 45 days was mentioned from a little bit earlier in the ordinance to this location. And you see that highlighted text would in fact do that.
Yep, I just thought it became less wordy that way. So.
Right. I'll turn it back to you. I'm sorry.
Nope.
Let me ask a question, and Jim, you might want to weigh in on this too, as you chair P and Z. Is some of this complicated with the sheer volume of development that has been occurring in DeForest? I mean, you have a lot going on.
It is. There's limited staff capacity. And so, sometimes getting to things, right away is hard because you basically, you get a submittal and that reserves your spot in the queue and you might be behind 6 other people in the queue. So this gives us a little bit more time to do what we need to do, given heavy workload for sure.
Jim,
One of the things that, go ahead, but I mean, one of the things that we're trying to clarify is what is a minor and a major site plan, because there was a number of different gray things. So I think staff has done a real good job of delineating that more to a defined line. And that maybe goes to speak to my third point. Mark, I wonder if you gave that any thought?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if I'm tracking the points in order, but Jim, you had
adjacent
suggested
zoning districts, yeah.
Right. You had suggested that a desire to reserve P and Z approval in cases where a more intense zoning, a site plan was brought forward in a more intense zoning district, like an industrial district that was next to a less intense district, particularly a residential district, where, thought that the collective voice of P and Z and having a public meeting would give a better opportunity to be kind of out in the open with things that are happening in those situations. So, Jim, if you wanted to propose it, I offered this highlighted text that you're probably now processing. And that would be that P and Z would be the approval agent if the project site was in a business or industrial zoning district, and we have many of those listed, and abuts or is directly across a public street, little asterisk there, not a state or federal highway, from a single family residential district, or in many cases we have PUD areas that are exclusively single family, so that would be covered as well.
I personally would ask for that as a friendly to be added. And my thought process with that is there might be cases, say, where smell might travel or different other things that we don't want a situation where some resident would say, well, I never had an opportunity to talk about it. Or talk to a
Jim,
committee
I
about
lost
it.
the last sentence of what you were saying.
I was just saying I would like that added as a friendly. I think there was a motion already. And the reason being is I just want to give our residents the opportunity to show up at a meeting. And I think if it happened to get approved at a staff level, that would potentially cause an uproar that they weren't able to speak publicly.
Is it not already in there?
I'm sorry?
Is it not already in there? Is that not already?
It's not in the version that was in your packet. This is a version that I put together today because I got an email indirectly from Jim this morning. So the words that you see highlighted are words that are not in your packet.
And he's asking for the yellow highlighted words to be added as a friendly amendment.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Al, do you have a problem with that? Okay, Alex?
I would be okay.
Question for Jim. Just as an example, would that be something like a grease facility across the street from residential that we have now in the village? So a situation like that.
That case would trip off a major site plan review, so it'd go to
Okay.
planning and zoning. That's
I'm
my
fine,
understanding.
if you want to add that as an amendment, I'll accept that.
I will too.
Could I also ask that a friendly be added to change that 45-day location?
You can ask, but 1 minute, Al wants to weigh in on something.
Yeah, just so we have a clear record of what the final version is supposed to look like, it may make more sense to go through the 3 or 4 issues that Trustee Simpson has, see if the maker of the motion and the second are going to accept all of them. Then we could just substitute this draft for the one that's in the
Okay.
packet.
All right, let's do that then. So we've gone through a couple of them already. Do we need to go back at all?
We reviewed 2 of them, I'd say, and I've got the third one that is what Mark has on screen right now.
Okay.
That I think is more of a policy discussion. Mark, do you want to mention anything or you want me to
Sure,
start on
Jim. For site plans that under the new ordinance would be classified as minor site plans, only reviewed by staff, the proposal that came out of P and Z was that P and Z really is not involved with those anymore. They would get a report from Brandy or me at the subsequent P and Z meeting explaining what was acted upon. P and Z might say, well, I wish you wouldn't have done it that way or this way. We can learn from that. But we wouldn't get P and Z involved at the front end. There were some reasons. Part of the reasons were sometimes P and Z, doesn't have the they wouldn't have the analysis from staff at that time. They would just have sometimes a 6-page, sometimes a 60-page site plan submittal to try to process. Secondly, P and Z, and some of the members have said, well, I don't really know what to do with this. Secondly, we commented that P and Z members, when they attend a meeting, are compensated for that attendance, but when they would just look at a site plan and maybe offer comments on their own, they're not paid for it. So that's a second concern. And then the third reason we took in the draft that came out of P and Z, that group or members out of the picture, was that in this new proposal, if someone doesn't like a staff action on a minor site plan, they have the option to appeal that decision to P and Z. And so we thought, well, if they're an appeal body, to also give members a chance at the front end to comment on it might create a kind of an odd situation for P and Z members. All that being said, if as a policy matter, the board wanted to restore P and Z action, the highlighted text would be added back to the ordinance, giving P and Z members copies of the minor site plan proposals at the front end and the ability to comment to Brandy on anything that they had. I wish this sidewalk would go here, or could you plant more plantings there?
Rebecca.
So, not having been a member of P&Z in the past, it's a little fuzzy for me, I will admit. But if I'm understanding what you're saying, the minor site plans at this earlier stage wouldn't necessarily come before the P&Z, and they wouldn't necessarily get the paperwork for it at that point. Now, at some point in time, does it come before the P&Z, like down the road?
For a minor site plan, let's just say someone wanted to.
Give me an example.
A 10-space parking lot addition. That would be a minor site plan under this proposal. Under the proposal as it's written without Jim's suggestion, P&Z wouldn't know about that project or the approval, at least officially or formally, until the next P and Z meeting, where at the end of the meeting, Brandy would say, I approved a minor site plan for a 10-lot parking space addition. Here's some, items, just FYI.
Okay. So let me give you one other scenario because I just want to make sure I'm understanding the
Yeah.
difference. We've got it's not necessarily, well, would that be changing the zoning
No,
or just
it's
utilizing
approving
the existing
something.
zoning?
Yeah, but
Okay, so-
in
okay.
any case, we're all bound by what the zoning ordinance
Right.
says you got to do.
Right.
And we can't require things the zoning ordinance says you can't do.
Right.
So whether it's staff reviewing it or P and Z, we're all under that same kind of,
Okay.
constraint.
So I guess the example or the scenario I'm thinking of is we've got single family homes and somebody wants to bring in multiple duplexes. That would have to go through a P and Z. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
'cause
wanted
that
to make
would-
sure.
That would,
that's a
if the land's
change.
zoned for single family and someone wants to do duplexes, they would have to rezone. Has to go through P and Z, has to have a public hearing, has to be approved by you guys.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just wanting to make sure I was understanding the difference.
These are all things, first of all, they're bigger projects. And second of all, they're things that the zoning has already been established for the area. And these are, allowed within the zoning district. It's just a matter of how the buildings and site gets arranged and traffic and parking and landscaping and lighting and all that sort of details.
And if I could state sort of my opinion why I suggest adding it in, is that I go back in history when we put this in place, there was only one site plan review and we tried to streamline it for developers and try to say define this minor and major. And one way that we got around some, I'll say, issues or definitions was just keeping the planning and zoning commission members in there as more or less staff. So if they wanted to comment, they could submit it to Brandy and it didn't necessarily change the amount of time, because if you look in this section, it's still the same, say 15 days, I think it is, that other staff have to review.
Correct.
And my thought is that many of our planning and zoning commission members, they have their appointments or are part of the planning and zoning is because they say they like their job and have some expertise in reviewing site plans. So I didn't really want to lose their expertise even in minor situations. And if they have the time to review it, they can. If they don't and miss the 15-day window, they miss it. I can tell you one thing I think doesn't necessarily have to happen is that the few times or the times when I do submit comments, I don't necessarily feel, especially with the minor site plan, that I need responses. Is this more or less submitting comments to be considered? So I don't know if it's a workload issue that maybe we just stop responding to committee members' comments. Just more or less thank them and move on like we would other situations. I don't know. Again, that's just my reasoning for wanting it put back in.
Thank you, Jim. Tashidra was called on and had her hand up, so.
Sorry.
I just had one question and then I'll be able to make my point after the question. So obviously you put some time into this document when you drafted it. What was the reasoning for removing planning and zoning for the minor site plans?
The reasons were a few. They don't get compensated for that time. They wouldn't be presented with a staff analysis. So, some of them, and we've got one of them online, can handle that. Others of them are not as comfortable looking at sort of raw plans, And the third reason is that in this draft, we put the Planning and Zoning Commission in an appeal role. So if someone says, Brandy, I'm sorry, Brandy, but she's the zoning administrator. She's technically the person that acts on site plan. Brandy, you made me put in too much landscaping. The ordinance says I only have to put in 10 trees. You told me I had to put in 15 trees. You're wrong. I'm going to appeal this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we felt it was at least unusual and could create a potential conflict situation for P and Z members to be commenting up front on things like that, and then also be on an appeal body for, potential people that were aggrieved by the decision. So those are the reasons.
I'm usually not a fan of redundancy. I heard you when you said it the first time. I just wanted you to say it again.
That's okay.
And that is the reason why I wanted you to say it again, because I fully support that and I agree with that. And I don't want this whole document not to go through just because I don't agree with the addition of this. I fully support that. I think for minor things, I think the staff does an amazing job and they should be able to do that. I feel like too many hands in the pot often has a lot of problems. And if planning and zoning is in the beginning and then making a decision on the end, it just seems like there's a lot going on there. And I like the 3 bullet points that you had for removing it, and I would support that. And I like that minor site plans should stay right there. And if people don't agree with what staff is doing, they have that option to appeal to planning and zoning so that planning and zoning can step in and then render a bigger decision, because staff have all the information they need to make a decision at that point. And then there's a body after that to come in and say, okay, give us all the information and then we'll make another decision. So I really like that you've removed that and you gave 3 sound reasons why you removed that.
Okay. So I'm not sure where that leaves us on this one. It may be that we're not agreeing to put that into the new plan, but to go with your language that you sent us.
I guess if I could, I would ask the friendly to add the 2 sort of non-controversial. Then I would ask for an amendment to add the 3rd.
So the non-controversial one was to relocate the 45-day review period from where it was in your draft, which is a little bit further up, down to this section where you then see the window, the full window where PNC has to act on a major site plan. And the second one was to classify another category of major site plans where there was an industrial or commercial project next to a residential.
Okay.
Yep, I would ask that those things be added as a friendly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Already accepted those, I think. I think we had already accepted those in a friendly. What was the other? So the other one was controversial? The one we were just talking about?
Seems like there's differences of
The
opinion.
policy, yes. So I would ask for an amendment to the motion to add the 3rd.
Okay. Bill has his hand up.
Trustee Simpson, is there a 4th one? You said 4, just so we
No,
can
no.
put it all in, okay. We had a motion for approval and a friendly for the date thing. And probably could withdraw that and consolidate it into, like Al had said, into those 2 items, because your friendly was just for that 1 item. Am I making sense?
Bill Chang.
So the way I heard the request from trustee Simpson was the friendly to add the 45 days amendment and then this section amendment. You then would like a separate friendly on the language adding that was discussed in the 3rd point.
Okay, if that sounds good, I'll go for that.
Al?
You want me to try to do this?
Yeah, I just got confused.
The amendment would be to add in section 2 of the ordinance
45.
under paragraph B, an additional paragraph, which would be numbered 3, with the rest of them being renumbered. And the new paragraph would read, the project site is within a business or industrial zoning district and abuts or is directly across a public street that is not a state or federal highway from a single-family residence district or a single-family residential component of a planned unit development district. The second amendment would be in section 1 of the ordinance.
No.
In the last paragraph, adding the words 45 between, the words between and 90 days in that first sentence of that last paragraph.
Okay.
That's the friendly I'm requesting.
All right.
The question is whether the maker of the motion and the second will accept those two amendments.
And you said you
I
would.
do.
Yes,
You said yes.
yes.
All right. So we've accepted those. Are you needing to make an additional comment?
No, I want to get back to the other wording.
Right, the
So
other one I was gonna request an amendment,
let
knowing
me,
that it will go to full vote. Sorry.
Jim, let Rebecca finish.
so so Jim is wanting to add planning and zoning, planning and zoning commission members if in the village is already in there. He's wanting to add and a minor site.
I'm sorry, this one's confusing. Those words, planning and zoning commission members in the village, if in the village is, if you looked at the village webpage and you looked at the current zoning ordinance, those words are in there. The P and Z recommended version that's in your packet struck that out.
Okay,
Jim's proposal would add that back in and then add the words and a minor site plan.
okay, so that would be, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because what we were talking about before was not having them see that on the front end.
That's the,
Because of the appeal, potential for appeal.
correct.
Would having it in here, is that basically saying they want to have it then?
Yeah, that would basically, for every minor site plan, when Brandy would send it to me and to Judd and others with staff, she would also send it to the 7+2 alternate P and Z members. And they, like us, would have 15 days to comment.
Got it, okay,
If Jim's idea gained enough favor tonight.
okay,
And the issue is then the appeal
right,
issue.
okay. That's making more sense now.
Yeah.
Because I was getting confused with, okay, is what's in here making it so that it's, taking that issue out? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we want to change this to say that there is no smaller project review just by staff?
I think Jim may have a motion to offer.
Is that where you're coming from, Jim?
Yeah, I made a motion to amend
I'm sorry, I'm
it.
not with the program tonight.
Yeah, I made a motion to amend, so it might die for lack of a second, or it might die if it doesn't get approved by the majority, so.
Well, I haven't heard a second for it yet.
I haven't heard it first.
Well, he made it.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify too, Colleen, what you said, this still is a staff review. It just is incorporating review from commissioners as well.
It would?
It would incorporate review from commissioners as well, but it is still a staff level review, meaning it doesn't go to a formal meeting, excuse me.
So anything under the 3,000, under what Jim wants to propose, comes before the whole commission again?
It
No.
doesn't, the only thing Jim's proposal would do would be require Brandy to send all minor site plan applications to P and Z members when she gets them and gives them 15 days to voluntarily comment or not.
It adds 9 emails to
Right.
the distribution.
Randy and then Bill and Rebecca.
I just want to hop in and just clarify process, right? So the way it works right now, is if we have something that comes in that's qualified as a minor site plan, comes in to me. I go through it, make sure we have what we need, and then I send it out to all of those that are currently shown listed in this paragraph, right? That includes the Planning and Zoning Commission. They get it as an email. They are requested to review the site plan, provide any comments back to me within, by a certain date. Then I take all of those, I compile them into the analysis and review and approval process with the contractor, developer, builder, whoever it is, and we work through that kind of stuff. What was being proposed prior to Jim's amendment was to pull out, when I send this site plan to everybody, I don't send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. For the 3 reasons that Mark had stated before, right? We do the review, we go through the analysis, we get it all prepped, We have to comply with all of our codes when we do these reviews. So I think the confusion is happening because it's in here in yellow, but it's not crossed out, and this is happening. We currently are doing it the way that Jim wants to continue doing it. What the recommendation was with the update of this ordinance was to pull that piece out to address the 3 concerns that we have been finding with these minor site plans. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very helpful.
It's your turn.
Thank you, Ms. Brandy. My understanding is we changed that minor site plan to give you the authority recently, like I seem to think 6 months to a year ago.
No, it's been in place for 10 years.
Oh, it has?
Yeah.
2015,
And
I think.
I fully support the way it is now with the minor site plan with you. Say they want 10 parking stalls instead of 8. That's a minor site plan. I don't have any problem with that. And it's faster for you or Mark to move things along. So if you're looking for a second, Jim, I can't give that on that one.
Okay, Rebecca?
Yeah, I just have a question for Jim. Because at this point in time, I'm not at the point where I would be willing to second, but I do want to better understand what your reasoning is to keep it the way it is based on what we've been told tonight. I just want to understand the reasoning.
I can tell you that one of the commissioner members, I'll say myself, does reviews near daily for the DOT and developed site plans as a job. We have another one that did access control daily before she retired. We have another commissioner that owns an architectural company, and I don't know everybody's background, but I don't want to lose their expertise in a review, even if it's minor. And I don't see leaving that item in as really changing any timelines.
Well, let me offer that I think the appeal it's on.
Oh, sorry.
I will get closer. The appeal issue is enough for me not to support adding it, but I also think it's important that we know that staff will apply all the standards, the ordinances, and the rules that we have created in the village for review of plans. Should there be an issue, it will come back. But one of the complaints I've heard from a couple of P&Z members is there's too damn much work and they're feeling overwhelmed by some of it at times. So perhaps this is a way to take one small item off their list. And there is a lot of work. Those packets are long, the projects are complicated, and while they have skills, they can apply them at the meeting and on the major site plans and on any other appeal that might come before them. So I could not support this part of it. I would support the other ones. So I think that leaves us that it's dying for lack of a second, Jim.
Call the question.
Okay. We have had the question called, so the question now is the amended motion to approve with the other specified changes. Everyone in agreement with that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. 10.2. We're going slow here. Ordinance 2025-003, an ordinance to repeal and recreate the village's subdivision and development regulations, Chapter 13, and to consolidate impact fee regulations within Chapter 13.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have-
Second.
And a second. Any comment or discussion?
Yes.
Bill?
I'll be voting no because it takes a lot of the parks and recreation or public service out of the loop. I didn't realize that when we created the Public Services Committee, the ordinance says the committee may make recommendations to the village board regarding various things. It should say shall. I don't agree. I agree with Chapter 15 changes where that happened, site plan review, things like that, but the may in the charter per se, and the removal of certain things in Chapter 13, but I'm not going to offer anything. I'm just to facilitate the vote. I'll just vote no. I'm not asking any amendments. I'm just stating.
Okay.
Jane, couple of things. Jim has his hand raised.
Okay, I can't see him.
But did Bill make a motion and then,
Well, I made a motion to approve.
right, and then, can you do that and then vote no?
You can vote no, but you can't argue against your own motion.
Okay. All right. No, Jim, I think you just did yourself in, Bill. Jim, you have your hand up?
Guess I'm on mute. I guess there hasn't been a second yet, so I'll second Bill's motion.
There was a second, Rebecca seconded.
Was, okay. Well, then I guess the comments I had, I also had sent 5 bullet points in this early morning. And I'll say out of those bullet points, a couple of them are just my ranting that I disagree with. And I guess, Mark, I don't know if you're pulling that up, but I mean, I
We can
can
bring
bow
the-
out of the 4 and 2%, but yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry, Jim, we can bring the ordinance up. Unlike the other one, I didn't make changes to it in response to your comments. Either because they were pretty simple to probably talk about here tonight, or they were bigger policy issues that were beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
As to what the committee does, it's similar things to what Bill's mentioned. We can go to any part of the ordinance, and I guess I can drive here too.
I'm indifferent. My second bullet point talked about changing a couple of things to 30 days to be consistent with other locations. Did you want to make those changes, or did you have time to think about that?
I don't have a problem with that. So there's I wish I could make this larger because I'm having trouble seeing it myself. Where? I see it now. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, Jim, that was probably in minor.
1322.8
Okay, sorry about that.
Fahrenheit.
Thirteen 22.8. Okay, so this
Yeah.
is we've got this kind of same distinction. We've got minor divisions and major divisions. Minor divisions happen very infrequently, and most of the time when someone wants to do a 0 lot line duplex where they want to put one side of the duplex on one lot and one side of the duplex on another lot, they have to do a certified survey map. The ordinance for many years has given Brandy the ability to approve those because they're pretty technical and minor. Jim's suggestion was that because we have in the site plan ordinance that you just reviewed, provided 30 days for minor site plan review, that we offer 30 days to Brandy to review these instead of 20. I saw Brandy shrug. I don't know whether it's an issue for her either way, Jim.
I don't have an issue either way. I just thought it would help clean things up, but I don't really care.
It's usually pretty much more straightforward than a site plan review.
So I would say we can move past that one if we, is that what you're gonna say, Jane?
And what I was gonna say was, I think people who are asking for those minor approvals want them faster rather than slower. So I like the way it's written with 20 days.
And so I'll just state a couple other my bullet points was I personally would like the 2% change to 4%, but I don't think that's going to happen. And there's another spot where it mentions the minor street right away where I continually push for 60 feet when the ordinance says 66. But what I do want to talk about, and maybe I don't know how to present this, but I went through the ordinance pretty thoroughly and wrote down a lot of places where it said Director of Public Services and asked for it to be changed to Director of Public Services or the Public Services Committee to more or less give the, say, opportunity for an appeal for somebody if they didn't necessarily agree with the determination of the Director of Public Services. And
Well,
I listed a good
Jim,
20
just on
some
that point, the
places.
Public Services Committee is advisory. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they have the authority to hear an appeal. I mean, I would listen to Al on that, but they were created to give people a place to voice opinions, to review things and provide base recommendations, but not a decision-making body. I created it, yeah.
Yeah, the way the Public Services Committee is set up, it's purely advisory and it doesn't have anything in the ordinance that regulates or sets up the committee, any approval authority. This would, to implement this change, you'd want to change the other ordinance to reflect some authority to do what this says is a possibility, but this doesn't give them the authority. It just says if it's approved by them, but they don't have the authority to give the approval. So you'd want to change the other ordinance as well.
No, we don't want to change that one. Okay.
Okay.
So
Well, then I was just gonna state a fifth bullet point. I was gonna change one section to change it from Director of Public Services to Public Services Committee. So that's all I had.
Is that a friendly motion?
I don't know what it is right now, but
Well, I don't think it's a motion we can make unless at some point we had gone back and changed the whole operation of the Public Services Committee. So at this point, I don't think we can accept that. Okay. So we've got a couple in there, that we're considering, but I haven't seen any of them turn into a motion or, so at this point, we have a motion and a second to approve it as written. And I might call for the question because it's 8:34 and she's just gonna start getting it. So,
Yeah. I'd ask for a roll call.
all right, roll call.
Trustee Allen? Trustee Landgraf?
Oh.
Trustee Little?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
No.
Trustee Stefan Hagan-Han?
Aye.
Trustee Witherspoon?
Aye.
President Cahill Wolfgram?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2.
Thank you. All right. Ten point three. Ordinance 2025-008, an ordinance approving preliminary and final plats for the Riverstone Phase 2 plat northeast of the intersection of River and Windsor Roads, Village of DeForest.
Motion to approve.
I was counting on Bill to make.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
If you
comment?
want to talk,
No, I don't want to. I'm good.
okay. I'm just making your job easier.
That's right. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, buy me a
Comment?
beer afterwards.
Any, let's keep some order. We want to go home tonight.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 10.4, Resolution 2025-008, resolution authorizing the village president clerk to execute a development agreement with BJS Design Build for development of Riverstone Townhomes Phase 2.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Chief Olson is here. Did we find our wandering resident?
We did.
Yeah, we had about, I don't know, I walked back and I think I answered the phone about a dozen times for people calling and they were located by pin seekers. They made it about 2 miles from home, so.
With no coat.
Yeah, last I got updated was just a couple minutes ago. He was fine, just getting evaluated by EMS.
All right, item 10.6, resolution 2025-010, resolution authorizing the DeForest Police Department to participate in multi-jurisdictional impaired driving task force for the 2025 grant year and authorizing the chief of police to execute an agreement for participation.
Jane.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Wait, just a second, please. We skipped 10.5, the first grant.
Oh, 10.5.
We did.
I would move to approve that one.
Thought
I would move to second.
I just read it.
No, you read the 6, 10.6.
The one regarding the speed limit.
All right, resolution 2025-009, a resolution authorizing the Forest Police Department to participate in multi-jurisdictional speed limit enforcement task force for the 2025 grant year and authorizing the chief of police to execute an agreement for participation.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh.
Nay.
Motion carries. Item 10.6, Resolution 2025-010, resolution authorizing DeForest Police Department to participate in multi-jurisdictional impaired driving task force for the 2025 grant year and authorizing the chief of police to execute an agreement for participation.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. 10.7.
Opposed?
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 No.
Nay.
Sorry, we were moving. Didn't want to stop. All right, motion carries. Now can I move to 10.7?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you guys have had it tonight. 10.7, Resolution 2025-011, a resolution authorizing DeForest Police Department to participate in multi-jurisdictional seatbelt enforcement task force for the 2025 grant year and authorizing the chief of police to execute an agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
All right, motion carries. Item 10.8, Resolution 2025-012, a resolution terminating a development agreement with Sierra Cardenio for development within tax incremental district number 2, Village of DeForest.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 10.10, Resolution 2025-014, a resolution authorizing the village president to execute an agreement with Chrome Fireworks and Display LLC for Independence Day celebration.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2025-009, an ordinance annexing approximately 24.85 acres of land from the town of Vienna, Dane County. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, commission and board reports and communications were in your packet. President's report, I understand 2 of our board members went to the Robert's Rules of Order training with DCCBA. Congratulations.
When?
Tashidra and Bill Landgraf.
And Bill Chang.
And, well, Bill did, yeah. Anything else from DCCBA that you want to report?
Just quickly, the MMSD, the Madison Metro Sewer District did hire an executive director, Eric Dundee, who does live in the Village of DeForest. And as part of the kind of their initiatives there, the community members which participate in MMSD will be meeting with Mr. Dundee to talk about budgeting, talk about customer relations, and how to be more transparent in that process. That's all I had.
Good, good. His name was Dundee? All right, I would entertain a motion to convene into closed session.
Motion to convene in closed
Second.
session.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Langraff.
Aye.
Trustee Little. Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Stefan Hagenhan.
Aye.
Trustee Witherspoon.
Aye.
Trustee Allen.
Aye.
President Cahill Wolfgram.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, while they're getting set up. You are. Okay, are we back in open session then?
Mhm.
We have an open door. Well, we have action item 16.1, resolution 2025-015, a resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a development agreement with JES DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, 3D DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, and DeForest Wisconsin Industrial LLC, Village of DeForest, for development of an industrial building in TID number 9.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did you say nay?
We did.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know of any other business to come before this.
We, as you know, we attended Robert's Rules training and, as part of strategic planning last year, in-service, we did in-service on the board. And I feel we need some in-service this year, and this might be a good subject to look at. Also, in the future, I'd like to look at public speaking, as another trustee mentioned tonight, about residents. And maybe we could look at this in the future. It's nothing real urgent, but it's amending the public speaking, tweaking it is something in the future. But I think Robert's Rules needs to be looked at. We saw some good things, and it moves the board along. It's something to,
Thank you. All right, we have no other business that comes before the board, so I'd entertain.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, let me at least say it, guys.
those gigglers.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 9:18 PM.
Good night, Jim.
Good night, Jim.
Reese.